Oh, I asked you. Oh, yeah, I told you. Yeah. I can't print anymore. I'm gonna end up blowing my printer. I don't have enough. It's ridiculous how much money those cartridges are expensive. I know, $100. I know, because we have cartridge. And we keep trying to realize how to do that printers. All we do is print. How much color do you want? I really like this one. Eight shorts at the back. That's cute.
Behind you in the corner.
Yeah. Okay. At this time, we'll call this meeting of the Tip City School Board to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Stevens, will you call the roll, please?
Drum,
Here.
Mr. Maine,
Here.
Mrs. Dunaway,
Here.
Mrs. Heatherly,
Here.
Mrs. Zakor.
Here.
All present accounted for. We have a quorum this evening and can't concede.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Stevens. All right. At this time, I'll take a motion for approval of the meeting agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Dunaway, seconded by Mrs. Heatherly. Is there any discussion?
You didn't pull that one on consent. We don't do that now. Do it.
Yeah.
Oh, now?
You can if you want.
Oh, do you want us to do it now, Amber, or do you want us to do it when we get to the section? If I'm gonna
Go
mix it
ahead.
up.
We can go ahead and do it now. If
Okay,
there's something you want to pull out.
Great. Under consent agenda, I want to remove items K and M. Thank you.
Okay. And then did you want to put them
New business.
new business? So
Would
that would
be
make
new
them
business G
and
and new
H.
business H.
Okay.
Game workers and trustee.
Yep.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Okay, moving on, we'll go ahead and take a vote. Let us know whenever you're ready, Mr. Stevens.
Yeah, let me go check those really quick.
Go for it. Take your time.
Game workers. All right. Everyone, it's refresh. You should be able to see those items on the agenda now. Are we ready for the vote?
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Dunaway,
Yes.
Mrs. Heatherly,
Yes.
Mrs. Drum,
Yes,
Mr. Maines.
Yeah.
Mrs. Zakor.
Yes.
motion passes. Okay. Now we'll move to student recognition. Mr. Moran?
We've got a lot of kids to recognize for some great accomplishments they've earned in the last month or so. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call your name up by building, so Devin Copy go first. And what I'd like you to do is you can come up this way, that way there's no cords. And with the board, if you could maybe be on the top row, and then we'll get a picture with the kid. Yep. And then parents are, we'll take a picture, we got somebody, what is that? take pictures and.
Yeah, do you need us to help with any of that?
Nope, I
Okay,
should have all this here.
okay, cool.
If not, I'll throw them your way to get some help.
Right, we're all supposed to sign there? Yep, yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, Joe.
All right, so first we have at Nevin Copic, our K1 students, we have kids that were recognized for the character quality of thankfulness. And these kids were recognized by their teachers as well as Mr. Gingrich to help select them.
It's our character quality, and we have more that each teacher chooses one, but these, we then draw out of a hat. These are the ones that get to come to the board.
Come to the board meeting. Lucky you guys.
Lucky that-
All right, so first off, we have Cole Aikman. Over here, all right. There's your certificate. Aaron Blackmore.
Congratulations.
He's here.
is here.
Congratulations.
Yeah, a lot more people show up in RSVP, it's a good problem.
Yeah.
Come here.
Right there. I feel like we should clap again.
Good
Yeah,
name.
keep clapping.
Lucy Malarkey,
She's the one that was sick.
okay,
She's gonna shake her.
we'll get that to her. Carter Seagrave,
Cool.
Yavi. Santi, sorry, Charlotte, she told me before. Right. You can come up front, you're not hurt, you wanna get in the middle. So kids, if you wanna get right in the middle here.
Slide over.
Oh, you're
Knock down Mr. Moran, but that's-
You go.
That's the only time still not.
Right.
That's true. Otherwise you'll wrestle you.
Right here and right here, we'll take a cool little picture, okay?
You're not getting in?
No, this board can take care of it.
Oh, are you sure, Aaron?
I might break the camera.
Oh, I don't know. I think
It's okay.
you should, yeah, we should.
There you go. Come on.
Take it without me, they're good.
Okay.
We got them.
You guys did great.
Stanley got them squared
Look
away.
at you.
It's the mom thing. Everybody smile.
Fantastic.
All right,
Watch your
that's
step.
it.
Watch your step.
Come on down.
All right. Oh, man, we didn't get high fives.
No, we should have been hindsight.
Way cooler.
The parents still have time to get this printed for a Christmas card and get it out.
Yeah,
Get it in now, probably by the first.
yeah.
At Broadway, we have two students that were recognized by Broadway staff who made good choices throughout the quarter to earn this award. And we have Athena Chanel and Madeline Mullenking. Now, what good choices did you make?
Showed up tonight, right?
That's a great choice.
Great choice. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Yep, you want to stand like right up in here and we'll get a picture? Excellent.
Hold your word up on this. Smile, you're like the solo, you got the solo around.
Good job. Congratulations. All right, at LT Ball, we have two students, both who took it upon themselves to help and welcome a new student to the school, to help welcome them and learn a little bit about them and their language. So they appreciate their work with the students. So Isabel Zornachenko and Carter Crawford. Thanks for helping out a kid.
Congratulations. Have a good
We'll have you pop in here. Here you do. There we go. Okay. They, yeah, I know.
Saying it.
Yay, good job, guys. Congratulations. Good work.
Thanks for helping that kid. At the middle school, we've got a bunch of rock stars of the week. At sixth grade, we have Kennedy Ray Andrew Shields, and Annabelle Taylor. Either of them here today? You got Annabelle here, right? No. Kennedy Ray, I'm sorry. And you're right up top. Perfect. Congratulations. I think I saw your picture with the guitar. It was really good, right?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
At seventh grade, I'm gonna get all the seventh graders too, if you don't mind. Kara Corcoran, Declan Couch, and Sawyer Ridge. We have. Exactly.
You're welcome. I love it.
Sawyer. And eighth graders, we have Colby Haight, Addison Smith,
Thanks, Sawyer.
and Kayla, is it Bach? Is that right? Did I say it correctly? Boki, I'm sorry. There she is.
Hey, I had 4 and she was on. I didn't know. Oh my gosh.
No. Moms, and everybody get pictures now if they like.
Congratulations.
Follow them.
All right, we're gonna stagger you guys, because you guys are way taller than we are, so we'll stagger you.
Do they need to go down? They need to go down the row, maybe?
They're fine, it's fine.
It's fine, okay.
Okay.
Well,
You gotta use what I've got on the picture there.
this way.
There you go, yeah, and I'm just there.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you. And at the high school, got quite a few athletic awards to hand out. With cross country, we have Morgan Collins, who's a state qualifier, and placed, is it 38th or 39th at the state meet. And then we have Landon Kimmel, who represented the boys team, qualified for the state, and Landon ran just over a 15-minute mile or 15-minute 3.1 miles and earned third place at the state. So congratulations to those students. I think Landon's there, right? Oh, there's Morgan right there. You're right. You're 38 to 39. You don't have to do it fast, huh?
Yeah.
All right, good. Congratulations.
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 No, that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, nice job, congratulations.
Get the cross country.
Right.
Cross country picture?
One on each
Okay,
side.
yeah,
There you go.
yeah.
That's that.
Yeah, that's really fine.
Move over in between.
There you go. Just kidding.
Yep.
They'll hide me. Good job, guys.
Congratulations. You're still putting in some miles, all right? Yep.
Yeah, he just got 15th at the big Frankie one.
Yeah, regional one, we did really well. And then we have Distinguished Delegate Award, so. So the Tippecanoe High School Model United Nations team attended the University of Dayton Model UN Conference. They had over 230 students from 14 different schools in attendance, and seniors Jack Wyatt and Sophia Parabachkikov won Distinguished Delegates Awards out of all those students. So Jack and Sophia, are you here today? There we go. Al Fresco.
That's what kids wear. That's what.
Yeah, congratulations.
Good job.
Put him in the back.
Fine. Okay, good, you're good.
I know how to do windows.
Yeah, no, I know, right?
Congratulations. And we want to recognize was it a weekend, a couple days ago already? 10 days ago already? doesn't seem like that long ago, but the boys soccer team were state champions in Division II with a very nice run in the tournament, getting some revenge. I think that's what your revenge tour was. Is that right, Coach? Kind of what you said. So got some revenge on some teams that may have been a thorn on your side. So congratulations to Coach Slyman. And I have Owen Bailey's, Carter Coble. You come up here. You guys want them all the way down the like.
Doesn't matter, we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably gonna help.
Owen. Carter, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then- okay.
Congratulations.
Right.
Keegan Fowler. Keegan here. All right. Landon Haas here.
Oh, boy, might have to go down to.
Preston Harding.
Yeah.
There he is.
He's in here.
Jackson Hill. AJ Jurgens. Michael Jurgens. Not here. Okay. Carson King.
Congratulations. That was a good one.
Thank you.
That was good.
Caleb Logan. No. Brandon Lowry. Landon Luganville, Buell. Archie Mayer. Evan McIntyre.
Have you been down here? Yeah.
Dominic Bendiola. James Miller.
Right.
Dominic Nielsen. Hudson Owen. Jack Peterson.
Yeah.
Caleb Ramsey. Ransom. Jay Sawyer. Cameron Smith.
I like your picture.
Colin Snyder.
Sounds good.
It's okay. Beckett Treziak. Caden Turner. That's it, okay. All right, and the coaches are all here too. What's coming up? Coach Simon.
So can't see any of the board members. I hate to say it. Come on. Yeah, it's not them.
We got
Have the coaches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all There you go, Teresa. Yeah, get on in there.
That's good.
Say before you go. Oh my God.
I think this is before needs to go. Yep, right there, yep. This is the one that really happened. Everyone like this way. Way to go, guys. That's good.
Just met the guy today, actually. Yeah, very excited.
Good.
Very awesome.
All right,
Best day ever.
and guys, you don't have to dress up now for a while. Right? You can dress up when it's been late. Congratulations.
Where's Waldo? You know, hide it. Make it a little game.
Good job.
Okay.
All right, parents and kids, you're welcome to stick around for the rest of the board meeting, but I know there's probably a lot of homework to get done before tomorrow.
Practice, event, all the things.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you guys for coming so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm dead.
Bye, congratulations.
Sign and see.
And I've got the audit. I'm getting this stuff ready for the audit. The gap, everything.
Oh.
Mics are still on. Under the law. Everybody feel free to move up.
Yeah, if you guys want to move up so you're not so far back.
Oh, I think it's full.
All right.
I get nervous when I see that many of your papers, Kathy. I don't like it when you bring the binder. It makes me a little edgy. It's a little edgy up here.
Which binder?
Call me crazy, but I don't like your binders.
Thank you for organizing all of that too, Erin.
Kristen did all of it.
She's a
Thank
rock
you.
star. She's a real rock star. We know the real rock star.
Things together.
All right. All right, next we'll move on to committee reports. Miami Valley CTC meeting minutes. Mr. Baines?
All right, everybody got a copy of the minutes. As you can see, it was a pretty standard agenda. We had a resignation, a couple new staff, certificated staff. We discussed at length the hours in the school year and the new schedule coming up and beginning and ending dates for instruction. We had a advisory service extended days for 2023 policy was reviewed. And then we also, just as we were doing tonight, we did our 5-year forecast. And it follows pretty much the same trend as what tip schools do. A little bit more money involved, obviously, but you know, we've got the same issues that I think all school systems do at this time, and that, you know, our costs are rising at a greater pace than what the revenues are projected to do. So that has its implications, and we're all, you know, concerned just as tip schools are. The other thing that we talked about was some of the upcoming events. We've got we'll be hosting the sophomore career days on November 28th, 29th, and 30th. So those sophomores that are interested in possibly looking into CPC, that's a good time to do it. With the open house from 4:30 to 7 p.m. on November 30th. And all the families are invited to tour the campus and meet the staff members and enjoy a free spaghetti dinner. So yeah, pretty good deal there. Over the 3 days of the sophomore career days, we're anticipating approximately 3,500 students, 3,500 plus students and guests from our partner school districts. Also, I thought it was interesting to note, maybe we can get one of these too, but the district received a donation of a 2024 Ford Mustang GT from Jermaine Ford in Beaver Creek. So I thought maybe we could ask them if we could get a similar donation. And I did get to see it after the meeting, and it was awesome. I want one. The auto mechanics class,
Oh, cool.
it is kind of interesting because as long as they own the vehicle, they're not allowed to drive it. So, you know, it's only for pulling repairs and parts off and replacing them. And so the kids get an in-depth look at what it is, what it takes to manufacture a car and run a car, and all the efficiencies therein. November 30th, we have the sophomore open house, and I previously mentioned that is from 4:30 to 7 on the 30th. December 20th coming up is the students' last day on campus for the holiday break, and then classes resume on January 4th. So that's my report for the month.
Thank you, Mr. Main.
You will?
I was at the TIF Educational Endowment meeting on November 8th. Just wanted to go ahead and put it out there that Teacher of the Year will again be online for you to fill out that form later in the year. You said, what month will that? I forget what month we said. In May. So that will be coming out just as a precursor for parents watching who have excellent teachers in our district. I think that's, does anyone else have committee reports?
No, mine got canceled.
Okay,
Ours is gonna come up on our policy review.
yeah,
so-
policy review. Okay, all right, moving on. All right, at this time, citizens may address the board. We have 2 citizens signed up this evening for the first part of the meeting. So our first one is Mr. Don Watson.
Don Watson, West State Route 571, Tip City, Ohio. I'd like to start out, one question, or a couple questions to the superintendent. The board can listen in. At our last meeting, the superintendent asked me if I had a cell phone. I don't know what that was about, but I do have a cell phone. Seeing is believing. I do not have a cell phone sickness. That stays at my house usually unless I'm on a long trip. I don't take it to the field. I don't want to lose. So that's why I would do that. The other thing I want to talk about, I go to the ball games to meet kids, grandparents. And some of you know where I sit at the football games and why teachers, when they come by, question me and tell me about stuff. And so this year, the football tournaments, I had 3 teachers stop and tell me, which I don't need to know about it, why there's a teacher in a committing adultery in our schools. And I said, well, I'm a taxpayer. I don't want that going on. So then I go to the book I believe in, and that tells me adultery is a voluntary sexual intercourse between a married person and someone other than his or her lawful spouse. So I would hope this would be taken care of by the superintendent. The other thing I want to cover, which makes me ill, is this picture on this report. It is a racial picture. I don't care how long you've been in Tip City. This picture came about because people want to call us red devils. That's like saying back when I was in school to black people, you were and that's off the charts.
Mr. Watson, that's offensive not to
yes.
use that language here.
I know.
But you don't, we don't use it, period.
Yeah.
Well, let's say the N word.
We don't use it, period.
Let's say the N word. That's not the name. But that's what you're calling Tip City Red Devils every time you use Red Devils. Because my landlord, I grew up in this township. My landlord was 100% Indian. And when I showed him, he became like a grandpa. And when I showed him my class ring, he cried. Because when he grew up, the slang word for Indians was red devil. So I went to the Monroe Township Cemetery. Homer Cushwell buried on lot 151 in 1977. Now, Mr. Moran, are you going to correct me? We don't use the word devils, red devils in this meeting? You corrected me on another slang word. So I'm wondering if you're gonna stand up against it, or when you walk out the door, you know the information. I went to the library, I looked through the yearbooks. There was in 1938 and the 30s up to that was no red devil. There was Indian squaw with the pigtails. But I'm sick and tired. I went on 20 mission trips to dark-skinned people to help them out. Then my home school, on my classroom, has a picture of an Indian and put 2 horns on. On the top, has a picture of an Indian in a canoe. So this is fact. This is not some hearsay, like if you go to the Historical Society, they want to tell you that it's a traction line bus car that had a name on it called Red Devil. That's not true. It's not in the yearbooks. It's not on my class ring. So I think it's time for this school board to stand strong and remove it from the Tip City schools. You can call them anything, but nothing to do with people. We saw with the ACLU removed from Washington Redskins, Miami Redskins, Cleveland Indians, but we still sit on our butts and don't do anything about Tip City. Oh, we get a magazine that says Tip City Neighbor. Oh, we love Tip City, it's so perfect. No, it's not perfect. It's a racist town. We don't even have a black teacher. We've had several administrators change in the last few years. Did we get a black administrator? No, because we're racist. Oh, no, we don't say
You're watching,
that.
your time is up.
Your time's up.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Mrs. Kathy Bone.
Whoa, of course, I'm gonna talk about Tip Pride because they're the thorn in my side. I see they're on the agenda again tonight, and, I just wanted to say, that apparently, it looks like New Carlisle Federal gave them a loan, they haven't been able to pay back. And they're letting the school know about it. They seem to have some other demands for the school as well, as like honoring promises made to donors. My first thought is, how's the school gonna honor these promises if they don't have donor forms? I've requested donor forms from the school in the past, and when they specifically mentioned, I do not have a donor form for them. So I have to ask to the school. There was a Facebook posting on Tip Pride saying they pledged money, so I have no doubt this firm pledged money. But what did Tip promise them? What did Tip Pride promise them? I know of things in other donor forms they promised, but why wasn't this handled back in 2017, 2018, and 2019 by their buddy on the school board or by the previous athletic director? No one from Tip Pride came in then accusing the school administration or the board of not taking care of donors. Why all the backlash now? Is it because they're being sued by one of their donors? And as for other promises made, does Tip Pride have in their possession any scoreboard panels promised? Or did they set aside money to pay for these when the scoreboard goes up? Or was it going to be more money out of the pocket of the taxpayers? As far as paying the loan back, this is the responsibility of Tip Pride. The bank took IOUs that in very poor judgment on behalf of the bank. Michelle did say they changed banks because Unity would not give them a loan. That was a very smart call by Unity. I believe that Scott George said in the December presentation before the board that these were moral, not legal obligations by the donor, so the donors have their minds to make up on this issue. Slide number 10 of Tip Pride's December presentation also states, all loans are between Tip Pride and the lending institution. The school has no responsibility related to the loan. Tip Pride seems to blame the school board, at least one specific member, and me for their failures. We're not guilty of anything but trying to find out the truth. I've requested FOIAs from the school. I've read emails where this particular board member, among others, have asked over and over, how can we help? What can we do? And Tip Pride in turn turns around and bashes them. That's very uncalled for. They have been asked many times for their financials, but claim the school has no right to them. They said they were made uncomfortable in previous years because they were asked for their statements and questions were being asked they apparently did not want to answer. They also appear to have never shown financials to the city either, even though it's city property. At the December meeting, after Ann suggested someone be assigned a TIP Pride committee to help, Simon assured them they would assign someone to TIP Pride committee in January. That never happened, but nobody from TIP Pride came in accusing Simon of going back on his words. It's only a select few they go after, and those people are because they're looking for honesty. They don't like honesty. In the November 11th, 2020 meeting, the TIP Pride had a statement was made by Michelle that they had a large insurance policy, probably paid for by donor or fundraiser money in case they were ever sued. This looks like New Carlisle Federal is casting a wide net to see how they can get this loan paid off. I would suggest they take it up with TIP Pride. TIP Pride has always been a thorn in my side because I've always thought there were a lot of shady things going on. People were surveyed, wanted the field to go by the high school, it made more sense. Some city and school officials worked together, convinced the people it should stay in the cramped box in the city park because of some soil boring tests. Well, I have those tests. Mr. Stevens couldn't find a check or purchase order, so we don't know who paid for them, but we do know they were done at the park. The only soil borings were done in 2001 at the school, and they were only done where they wanted to build the school, and it's built, and the parking lots were going to be built. There was never anything done for a field. TIP Pride was raising very little money from the start. That's when the money came in for the turf from Premier, and that was not a donation from Premier. I don't know how many times I can say that. That was money taken out of Premier account that Premier sends here for all the athletes in the school, not just a subset that play on a field at the city park. The turf was not ever donated by Premier. They don't do that because they're not going to donate to a city park. Okay. The taxpayers paid $2,000 for 20,000 for a design. TIP Pride paid 95,000 for a new design because they didn't like it. They have spent money left, right, and center, and their donors should be asking why. And TIP Pride should stop blaming other people for all their downfalls. And I suggest you look at the October 16th meeting this year at City Council, because City Council doesn't know what's going on. They don't know what's going on at the stadium either, and they're asking, are we building a new stadium at the high school? I suggest you look at that.
Thank you, Mrs. Ben. All right, Mr. Stevens, treasurer's report.
All right. Attached to board docs, I do have a financial statement for the month of October. We were able to reconcile all of our activity, which is a fantastic thing. We can see that we currently ended with a cash balance of $18,225,000. On page 3, we do have the list of all cash accounts or all of our fund accounts here at the district. I'd like to point out Fund 24, that once again, this is our employee benefits self-insurance fund. I mentioned at our last meeting that, which is not new information. The previous treasurer before me also brought this to the board, but the self-insurance fund did not perform as anticipated. We had some issues where we as a district did not properly increase premium cost from the school and from the employees to cover the cost. And so we did find ourselves in a loss on that fund. We've since changed back to the Southwest EPC. They've taken us back. Right now, that was as of October 1st. We are no longer participating in the self-insurance fund through our broker USI, through UMR, and right now we're just waiting for all claims that occurred before October 1st to be processed and put through. This could take up to a year to happen. Right now, I can say though that the claims have slowed down significantly. I do still receive a weekly email with the number of claims, and we're talking $1,000 a month. Maybe I think I saw another one for 4,000 this month. We are much smaller than we were in the past. I do still anticipate that we potentially see claims as high as $1 million total so that's why later in my forecast you'll see where we currently have $1 million transfer or advance from the general fund to the 024 fund. while we wait for things to settle and then come up with a plan on what we're going to do to recoup what funds we can.
Mr.
And
Stevens,
yes,
which document are you on?
I am on the 3-page, the one, that's the one right there. Go flip over one page.
Mhm.
You see a list of cash accounts.
Yeah,
There you
right
go.
there.
There you go. That's the list of all the cash accounts. So Fund 24, there's the one with the $869,000 negative balance. The negative balance, the other negative balances you see are in our federal grant accounts. Those we're just waiting for refunds from the state of Ohio for federal grant funds that we have in place. Just a page before that, I kind of skipped over it. We do show all of the investments that we currently have in place and the investment earnings as of right now, which is great as interest rates are still good. I mean, you can see that our Star Ohio account is currently at 5.56%, but we did receive $78,000 in interest last month. So, but you know, as in previous years when interest rates were 0.01, we saw $500 for the whole year. You know, it's really, really small. So we'll take it while we can get it. Any questions on what I've just spoken on, or anything that you see in the report that you'd like answers on?
How about the food service account? What, is that just a temporary situation, or is that?
What you're seeing there, so Mr. Maines, you're pointing out that there's an unencumbered fund balance in the food service account. It says 219,000. That's with all POs that are currently open in place. We are anticipating additional revenues to come in throughout the remainder of this year. So when we look at our appropriations report, you will see what I'm anticipating for Fund 006 total revenues. And the total revenues, that includes what you currently have and what you plan to receive for the year. Your revenues have to be higher than our appropriations can be approved for. So I am definitely anticipating additional revenues to come in to cover those balances. So right now, the 006 fund has a balance of $153,000 in it. And we expect that to go up as we receive reimbursements. It'll go down as we pay our expenditures for our staff and the food service and things for that. But in the end, we do anticipate ending with a positive balance.
Thank you.
So,
Let's go with, I think, Joellen had a question first.
Mine relates to the self-insurance and the transition to the insurance that's managed by the.
EPC.
I was just curious, what percentage of increase did employees incur for the switch over based on the premium costs?
So for the months of August and September, the previous treasurer did a 15% increase from what was between July to August and September. There was a 15% increase that went into place to try to recoup some losses. When we went to the EPC, the insurance actually went back down to where it was just a 10% increase in it. And or 9%. Well, over the year, because of the 2 months and the other 10 months at 9%, it was an overall increase for July through June 30th of 10%. So
is this statement correct? In the 3 years when we were using the self-insured program, there were no premium increases.
There were no premium increases for the entire life of the UMR insurance until July and August of this year.
And there was
Or I'm sorry, August and September.
then the employees saw a 15% increase, but then there was adjustment, and so then it went back down to 9.
Yes,
Is that what I'm understanding? Thank you for clarifying.
sure. Teresa.
Hey, while we were talking about the 006 fund.
Mhm.
Not to catch you off guard. One of our issues, and it's not, I mean, it's a good thing, we have such a, compared to most districts. Our free and reduced lunch is, it used to be like around 16-18%. Is it still about the same?
The state has recently changed, or the federal government has recently changed who can qualify automatically.
Okay,
And so we used to be anybody that qualified for SNAP or Medicaid automatically qualified through us. We would do a check with the state's website, and they would give us the names, we would do a match, and those students automatically qualified. They didn't have to complete free and reduced
The
form.
paperwork, yeah.
They have now added more programs to that automatically qualify students. We are seeing our free and reduced percentages go up
Okay,
because of that
yeah,
change.
sure.
And I don't know what the numbers are,
Yeah,
but
it's
it's
just curious.
definitely higher than the 11% that we used to see
Well,
in
and
the
the
past.
yeah, and so the reason why that 006 is always, when you look at this, you don't understand it. It's because our free and reduced lunch has been 11%, 16%, 18%. So on the days we don't have school, we lose money.
That is true.
A lot of schools make money on their food service account and we don't.
No, in
Right.
the past,
We lose money.
in previous years, we used to fund a transfer from the general fund to the
Right.
food service fund to cover the negative
Usually
operations.
in the summer.
Yeah, and because we're not a large free and reduced district, the reimbursements that come from the federal government are not really there for us. Now, during the years of COVID, where there were free food it was just free lunch. And
For everybody, yeah.
yes, all school districts saw a large increase in federal funding through COVID funds for that. And now we're back to having to have families pay for the meals, and we have our free and reduced again.
Okay.
And so, I mean, we're gonna see those revenues go back down from what we saw in 2021 and 2022.
Oh, yeah.
But I believe that we're still operating within our means. One of the moves that was made recently was to contract with the EPC for
Yeah,
food service.
that was in the spring.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
so we use a consultant with the EPC that helps us make sure that all of our menus are compliant with federal guidelines and that all of our reimbursement requests are being put in at the right rates. She
Okay.
helps us to find grant awards that can potentially come in that we may not have reached out for.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a wealth of knowledge. I recommend that service to any school district. I found them. They were in place at Milton when I went
Yeah,
over there,
that's what
and
Kate
as
said.
soon as I saw that service, I called up Mrs. Hagan.
Yeah.
And said, you need to contact the EPC, and she has been a lifesaver
That's
for
awesome.
Mrs. Hagan.
Yeah.
So that is definitely a service, and it's very cheap. It's only, I believe, $17,000. When we looked at a food service consultant
It was
or a
like
food
60
service,
grand or
that was just the
Yeah.
salary.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were gonna bring somebody in-house to manage it, and it was hiring another director.
I remember.
And so this is a fantastic service
Yeah.
for the price that we pay for it.
Right.
But at this time, I don't anticipate having to subsidize any of the 006 fund with general fund money this year.
Okay,
We'll just have to see
Wow.
how the operations go through.
sure.
And that's based on the revenues that are anticipated versus our expenditures. But we'll just have to wait. I'm not sure what could happen with food service prices in the next
No one
6
knows.
months.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know for a while it was hard just to find parts for dishwashers.
Yes.
So you
Right.
just never know.
Okay, well, thank you.
Sure.
And
That's what I was gonna touch on, the service that we approved and through. And what's the name of that?
That is the EPC's food service management. Bonnie Muckenthaler is the name of the supervisor.
Okay.
She is a retired food service director. I don't recall which school district she's from, but she works with numerous school districts throughout this area. It's a newer service that the EPC started when they realized that there was a need.
all right, any other questions? Okay. You're up again.
Okay. This one is looking for a motion.
Oh, yes, thank you, sorry.
Look, okay,
Okay, yes.
so moved.
Well, I'll just, you want to go ahead and
You wanna
read it?
Yeah, so we need a motion to approve the FY 24 appropriation amendments for. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Yep.
Yeah. Mrs. Dunaway,
So moved.
is there a second?
Second.
And second by Mrs. Zakor. Is there any discussion?
Just to go over the changes with the board, we had, there was some significant changes this time. Let me pull up the right document. Okay, on page 2 of the attachment, you can see all the funds that we had changes. The general fund went down $262,000. That was because there were some appropriations that were made originally for transfers from the general fund to the 024 fund. I took those out because we previously put in I put the $1 million advance in prior month in our permanent appropriation. So that has been in there for the past 2 months. So the appropriations in the general fund went down. We did receive a new Miami County Foundation grant award, and I believe that is on the agenda tonight for approval. We had a student managed account activity. Power of the Pen submitted a budget for them to use their accounts, and until we approve it, they couldn't spend anything out of it. I did reduce the expense in the 024 fund. I don't think it's going to be as much as what we had originally appropriated. So I brought it back down to be within our revenues. And then we did have some tournaments in the district recently. And when we have tournaments, we have activity for gate workers, and so we had and ticket sales come in. So we had to book those as well. So what happens is the funding that we use to pay for the staff members that are working the games, anything that's left over is considered OHSAA funding, and so we have to submit that money back to them. So at the end of the day, there's no profit at all in the 22 fund account, which is for our athletic tournaments. So at the end of the year, that balance should be zero. Yeah. That's all the changes I have in the appropriations. Are there any questions?
Okay, hearing none.
I do have a question. So you're saying, Mr. Stevens, the 022 fund is the
It's-
athletic?
Yes. It's a district managed athletic activity fund for OHSAA. Any other questions?
Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote to approve the
Okay.
appropriation.
Mrs. Dunaway,
Yes.
Mrs. Zakor,
Yes.
Mrs. Drum,
Yes,
Mrs. Heatherly,
Yes.
Mr. Maines.
Yes.
motion passes.
Now this one's mine.
Look
Thank you,
at- look at
Thomas.
they do that.
You did. There we go. All right, if you don't mind, I'll just sit here while I go through the forecast. So I have presented 2 items here attached to the board docs. One is the presentation and the other is the forecast itself along with its assumptions. There were many changes that have been made to this forecast from what we had submitted in May of 2023. A lot of those changes came because we have a new superintendent and we have a new treasurer. We have seen an increase in the spending and the goals that we have. One of the things that we talked about last board meeting was the 2 SRO officers that we now have in the district. Those funds needed to be included. We also have the change in the behavioral health counselors. I believe it used to be New Creations and now it's a company called Catalyst. There was an increase in price for those services as well. I've also built into the forecast amounts for repairs and capital outlay for buildings because we have seen a large increase in expenditures for boiler repairs, roof repairs. And so I didn't think that we had enough funding in there and I put that in place. If we don't spend it, great, fantastic. But until we see a change in our building situation, we're going to need to be prepared for large expenses for building repair and such. And we also, I have the $1 million that was put in there for the advance from the general fund to the 024 fund. So all of those changes are documented throughout the assumptions report that's attached to the 5-year forecast. Overall, if I would put your attention to page 2 of the large document, this is the forecast itself. I apologize for the smallness of the numbers that are listed there. It's not going to be on the screen, I don't believe. But what I want to take your attention down to, the last number, 15.01, our unreserved fund balance. You can see that this is our ending fund balance, but it includes any renewals of current existing levies that we have. So this is after renewals have been included. If you wanted to see what would happen to our cash balance if something were not to renew, you would actually go higher up to line 7.02. So I wanted to point out that we are currently deficit spending, and the dollar amounts that you see at the end, our cash balance is decreasing, and the decrease intensifies as we go from year to year further down. So in 2021, we had a balance of 13.8 million. And we went down 700,000 to fiscal year 22 for down to 13.1 million. And then we dropped $1 million more in 2023. And in 2024, we're down $3.3 million. Obviously that large $1 million advance out is one of those, but then we also have increases, major increases across the board in purchase services, salaries, supplies, and benefits. And this is being driven by the large increase in costs that we have with inflation going on right now. The problem that we have, along with what Mr. Maines was saying earlier with the MVCTC, we're all seeing expenses going up while revenues are remaining flat. Unfortunately, we rely on two main sources for revenues. One are taxes from our community, and the other is foundation money from the state. The state did provide additional funding to schools this previous budget cycle that was just approved back in July. Unfortunately, Tip City did not see any real benefit from that increase. Maybe $100,000 is what we're projected to receive, while other school districts, Milton Union, saw an increase of $700,000 in their foundation funding. So the problem is that we're considered a wealthier school district, and so they use a funding formula that takes that into account. And I'm drawing a blank, but I believe that right now the state is providing a little over $8,000 a student before you take into account the funding formula. Tip City, the wealth that we have, they reduce it to where we only receive 30% of that. We're expected to cover, I believe, the other 70% of that funding. And so because of that, we don't see as much as other schools might see. And I don't want to say that the state funding formula is flawed. I believe it's a better attempt at what's been done in the past. They're truly trying to fund what we have here in the district. So they're now, where the student attends, that's where the money goes. In the past, we used to see funding come in for students that didn't attend Tip City, and they would take that money away from us. So it would come in at that ratio that I just said, but it would go out at 100%. Tell me how that works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they've stopped doing that, and now you just receive the funds for the students that are coming in. So we're funded at roughly around 2,450 students. It's somewhere in that range, between 2,400 and 2,500. Depends on the average daily membership, and they look at the attendance for the students. So we are not seeing the revenues increase like we are seeing with the expenses. And so that is causing us problems with our expenses on the 5-year forecast. The way to go about trying to curb that is by either trying to receive new funding through tax levies, grants, or going through and reviewing expenditures and determining where we can cut. And I know that is actually something on mine and Mr. Moran's mind. We're talking today actually about it with some of the other directors in the board office. We know that there's going to need to be some things that we look at to see where can we find savings. So that is our goal, to try to alleviate the negative cash balance that you see on the 5-year forecast in fiscal year 2027. Yes.
I need to, I'm sorry, will it break your rhythm if I interject now, because I'm not financial, so I
No, you can right ahead.
want to go where you're, okay, thank you. So, in terms of the money the state gives, I thought, Mr. Stevens, one of the changes that happened recently in 2022
Mhm.
for budget was that they were no longer calculating funds based on students coming in, students coming out. It was based on what your residency base of students are.
It's based on the students attending the district. If they attend the district, the money comes here. If they go to a charter school, it goes there. If they go to a private school, right now, nothing's happening except for
So
the
are
Ed Choice
you
grant.
saying that it goes to those places they're attending in the form of a voucher?
Yes, it could. I believe, so at Capitol Conference, I went to a presentation that spoke on the voucher program. The voucher program has exploded.
Yes.
Any child that attends a private school can apply for the voucher. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it is exploded.
Well, I believe that even the homeschool, it's progressing to a voucher as well,
The voucher for homeschool is not there yet.
yet, but it's in the works. is my
I'm sure
understanding.
it is. I'm
Okay,
sure it is.
okay, so you're saying that it still is based on, I thought if there was a district that had, I'm just making these numbers up.
Mhm.
If the student residence, wherever they go, is 2,500, then that's plugged into the formula of what's getting reimbursed to the school. That's
It's
not,
only if they're enrolled in our district.
okay. So you mean attending our district?
Attending our district,
Attending the
yes.
school.
Because
Okay.
there could be students out there that we don't even know live in Tip City. There's no funding. If they are homeschooled, unless they've told us, we don't know. And they're not in any records of ours, so there's no
Okay.
funding for them coming in.
The second thing that popped up, you said about trying to find ways to raise more money, or, that's kind of where you're stuck, you,
You're either raising or reducing,
or both.
yeah,
Or
or both.
And so, in terms of raising, has there been any discussion on income tax?
It was something
With
that,
seniors being exempt, or those with those limited,
That-
fixed incomes?
that would be called, that's called an earned income tax.
Okay.
When a school district goes to the ballot for an income tax for the first time, they either choose to do an income tax, which taxes all, or an earned income tax, which taxes those that are earning income from a job. It does not tax the seniors who have passive income for retirement and such. Once you have chosen what you're getting
Mhm.
and you pass an earned income tax, that's the only type of income tax you can assess. Unless you were to repeal all of the income taxes and start over. So let's say we took out a 1% earned income tax and then wanted to put an increase of 0.25. Both would have to be earned income taxes. You can't have part earned income tax and part just regular income tax. I can say that we did look into income taxes as a way to help provide funding for a building project
Mhm.
previously. That is how Milton Union has funded their building that they did back in 2008, was an earned income tax. And we have seen, Milton did see over the years that the collected income taxes that originally started at, say, roughly about $1.8 million has gone up in the past 15 years. I believe it's about 15 years. It almost doubled. They're now up to about $3 million.
So can you list the surrounding communities that have this earned income tax? I thought quite a few do.
Earned income tax, I can't tell you who has an earned income tax or not an earned income tax, but I know that Tip City is one of the few school districts in Miami County, if not the only one, that doesn't have an income tax. I could be completely wrong, but I know that Milton Union has one.
Miami East.
Miami East has one, Troy has one. I'm not sure.
I can get you on the state website.
Yeah.
It has the list of all the schools that have an
Yeah.
income tax.
Okay.
Yeah,
on there.
an earned income tax. It can provide funding and growth funding for a school district. Like I said, Milton saw theirs go from about 1.8 to $3 million over 15 years. As the district does better, then the earned income tax also goes up, while not harming the senior citizens and their retirement income. In
Because
fact,
I think that's just a real sticking point for a lot of people that are on fixed income.
Mhm.
It's not that they don't want to support their schools. It's not that they're against the schools. I mean, they're very,
can't.
they're very fond of their schools, and it's really an unfair argument to to judge them that way simply because the economy and all. I mean, everybody's struggling and just pinching pennies to get groceries. And so, I mean, I don't like taxation. I like to, but I think there needs to start being some discussion some way to look at, because with this bond coming up, again, that's, in a mindset of the retirees on fixed income. They're like, how am I going to take on another 2,000 to 3,000, depending on what their house is, the property of their house. And I've always thought it was an interesting argument. You could be a millionaire living in a $200,000 Cape Cod home, paying very modest property taxes. Do you know what I'm saying? And so it's not really reflective of, I don't know, I think it's a discussion. And I know so many of the surrounding communities are doing that.
Yeah.
So
from the experience that I had a few years ago, there was a lot of people against an income tax, because when you calculate it and you look at it, you'll pay more. You could pay because it would tax every person that lives in your home on their earnings and not just one household's property tax. But I mean, it
would
has
tax everybody in the home that's earning
correct
income.
that's earning income. It was not looked at favorably, but I can say that after being in a district that had an income tax, it truly did provide for the capital asset needs of the district. I know that they're currently trying to figure out how they can reallocate their earned income tax to be more operating and still provide for the building bond, because it has increased so much.
I clearly want to be on the record. It's not that I'm a proponent of it, but I'm also not an opponent of it. I'm just saying, I think there's a place for discussion.
Yeah.
You have an $88 million project coming up that you're asking everyone to support. And so I'm just saying, I think there needs to be, we need to go there and have some of these discussions, see what that would look like, whether or not, how it would help.
We would have to contact the Ohio Department of Taxation, and they can provide an estimate of what
the
funding could be received for the district
Okay,
for an income tax or an earned income tax.
thank you.
Okay. All right, so let's just click through some of these. I know I've given away a lot of the good stuff already. Okay, so Ohio Revised Code, why do we do a forecast? Ohio Revised Code requires us to do it. The purpose and objectives of this forecast is to engage us right now, it's to serve as a basis for determining the big part is the middle one right there. To serve as a basis for determining the school district's ability to sign the certificate required by ORC, commonly known as a 412 certificate. So anytime that we enter into a contract, we have to determine if we have the funding available to cover that contract. The biggest contract that we cover is our teachers union negotiated contract. Usually we approve a contract for 3 years. At this time, I cannot certify a 3-year contract according to this forecast, because it is going into the negative in 2027. So right now we're looking at a 2-year contract. We think things could change that could make that go away if we do some cuts. Or I didn't mean to say the word cut, changes in our expenses. But right now we can't do a 3-year. I can't certify it. That's this forecast. The other thing is the state of Ohio, the auditor's office and the state will look at our forecast. If they see that we are in significant financial need immediately, they would bring in maybe some oversight, fiscal watch, fiscal caution. These are designations that they provide to districts based on their financial health. Currently, they wouldn't do anything with our forecast at this moment because we have 3 years of good health, and then we see some problems in years 4 and 5. However, if that had been this year or next year, we would have some oversight. With the highest oversight is where the state comes in and reviews and oversees everything. You can't spend any money without their approval. So the forecast, before we go further, the forecast is a painting of the future based on a snapshot of today. This only has information that I have as of right now. It could change with, let's say a new bill goes into place that provides additional funding for schools tomorrow. This forecast would then be wrong, or not wrong, but not as correct as it could be. So this forecast is going to encourage us to look, like I mentioned, Mr. Moran and I and our administrators, to look at what we can try to do to help the expenses in the future. And we're going to try to be proactive and not reactive. That's what we're going to try to do here. The forecast is split up into 2 sections. We have revenues and we have expenditures. And again, I've already mentioned the local funding versus the state funding. And most school districts, we are a service entity. Most school districts spend their money in salaries and benefits. And so I don't know if you guys can see this. So this graph right here is currently showing the red line is our expenditures, the blue line is our revenues, and the green line is our cash balance. If you were to go through and look at other school districts, this is the graph that you're going to see in most of those schools. The blue line is showing a flat, and we're actually seeing it go down a little bit. And the reason it is going down is because the 1.85 million emergency levy is no longer effective. It has to be renewed. I can't put it in there as renewed because it hasn't been renewed yet. So you can see that the revenues actually decrease while the expenditures continue to go up. And then the green line shows our cash balance going into the negative between 2026 and 2027. So, I mean, that's your normal view right there. The deficit spending actually began in the district in fiscal year 20, and we've continued to deficit spend since then. Yeah. And it wasn't as much, but we are seeing an increase in that as the costs go up. This graph here shows our ending cash balance. The GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association, I'm pretty sure I just butchered that completely. GFOA.
Go with it.
Yeah, GFOA recommends a 60-day cash balance at the end of the year. So they want you to be able to operate for 2 months without receiving any additional revenues. And you can see that, I don't have it on here. It's probably a different screen. We're actually, let's see, unencumbered balance. This blue line here, we're going into the negative in 26 or 27 and 28. Where is it? There's a tab. There we go. At the end of 2026, we have 18 days left. And in 27, we are negative. I don't have my glasses. I don't know if that's 32. And then negative 89. Oh, it's right here in front of me.
32 exactly.
All right. 32, negative 32 and negative 89. So they recommend 60. And you can see at the end of 2025, we have 64 days. We're right there at that recommendation, but we aren't there as we go further on. Let me head on back here. So ending cash balance with the levy, you can see the difference. This green line is if we do renew that levy of $1.85 million, and the red line is if we don't renew it. That levy goes off of the books as of December 31st, 2025, meaning we have the first chance to renew it is November of 2024. It's just like what we just did with this past emergency levy. It was going to go off the books at the end of 2024. We first renewed it in November of 2023. So we like to try to renew it the first time just so that we can make sure that it's a known and we can put it on the forecast. If I didn't know that that levy had been renewed, not only would we have the $1.85 million levy coming off, we'd also have the $5.6 million levy coming off. And that's a very big drop.
Yeah.
So we would try to renew it in November of 24 and then have 2 chances in calendar year 2025 to renew it as well. Let's see, this shows the breakdown of our revenues. As you can see, the big purple dot, the big purple chunk, that's our real estate taxes. And then we also have our tangible property tax of 2.2%. So almost 60% of our revenue is coming from income taxes. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Property taxes.
Yeah, you said property.
Thanks, Ann. The other state that you see up here, this other state, that's our homestead rollback money that comes from the state. And that's for any levies that were passed before 2013. If we were to let something expire and then try to go back and get a new levy, it wouldn't have homestead and the rollback in there anymore. So that would go away. And instead of being paid by the state, it's now paid by the homeowner. I know that the state is currently looking at different ways to try to help alleviate the taxpayer burden. There's been talk of, the state's like, well, let's just take away the homestead and rollback. That would really upset some people because that would put it back on you and save the state. There's all kinds of things being said right now. I don't want to speculate. I just know that the legislature in Ohio is trying to figure out how to deal with the large increase in property taxes that we saw go across the state. Our property taxes went up this year. Other districts or other communities, counties are currently going to see an increase in 2024. They haven't been hit yet. We have with the large increase. So they're trying to change some things.
So one thing I've been reading about this voucher is that I guess people don't think about it. I didn't until I read it, but I try to read all those bulletins that come in because I see this trending and I don't think it looks good
No, it's not.
for brick and mortar
For
public
us, no.
schools. No, it does not. And so that money that the state is paying out in vouchers is coming from the coffers that would go to the public schools. And I mean,
There's so much that they can give for education, and there's the public education side, and then there's the private education side. More money is now going to private education than has ever gone to private education before. I believe the state budget did provide an extra $1 billion more in public education than they had in previous years, but they also increased the voucher side as well. And I want to say $1 billion is expected to go out for the voucher program. And I'm not saying they took it away from public education, but it could have been used
it was a
elsewhere.
shift.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, but they didn't take anything away from us. They just put more money because they have that rainy day fund. And the rainy day fund has $3 billion, I believe, in it, or had $3 billion, maybe it's more now. The revenues collected by the state continue to increase more than what they anticipated in income taxes and sales taxes and such. So that rainy day fund continues to grow. But you're right, Ann. The voucher program is a concern.
It's an unknown.
It's an unknown.
It changes every year.
Yeah, I mean, again, they did provide more funding to public education this budget than they did in previous budgets, but we didn't see very much of it. So as other school districts.
all I'm trying to say is that it's growing.
Mhm.
And it's going to continue to grow because it's a legislative issue. And so until there's a change in philosophy on that, I think that it's, I'm not sure where when you start putting the brakes on something, because if your schools start decreasing the enrollment, and you know where I'm going with this, it's like
There are kids showing up that they didn't know existed for this voucher program because they never went to a
there's
public
people
school.
converting too, because they don't maybe like what's going on in the public schools, or so there's a lot of reasons that it's gaining popularity on financial support. So it's a cultural thing, it's a legislative thing. I think it's just something that I don't feel many people are paying attention to in Ohio, and they're gonna wake up and go, how did we get to this point? And so
It's something to be aware of.
I think it is, and I mean, it is, it's not that I think, it's something to be very aware of, so, anyway.
The next slide shows the difference between our local revenue, which are the lines in red, versus the state revenue, which is the line in yellow. We are definitely receiving more local revenue than we are state revenue.
Because we're.
Yep, we mentioned that earlier. House Bill 33, that's the fair school funding plan. It continues to fund students where they're educated. The funding plan has us on the formula. So the plan has it set in place to where you can't receive less money than you received the year before. We aren't on that. We aren't at that level. We're, according to our enrollment, we are currently being funded, meaning we are receiving the funding based on the number of students we have. We aren't seeing any guarantee money at all. So if we were seeing guarantee money, that means we're lower somewhere, and they don't want us to go lower than we were the year before. Total revenue is estimated to shrink by 0.6% annually over the next 5 years, while expenses are estimated to go up 2.5% a year. That doesn't work.
No.
So, let's see. So here's our expense side. The red are our wages and the purple are our benefits. In total, wages and benefits are about 77%. We've always seen a magic number between 75 and 80%. The reason we are a little lower than 80% is because we actually have capital outlay expenses in the general fund, which increases total expenses overall. If the capital outlay expenses, which we're using to repair the buildings and make those repairs, if those weren't in there, we would see our expenses currently trending more higher towards the 80%. Healthcare costs, that, like we spoke earlier, the average is 10% overall in 2024. Costs continue to rise with inflation, and we also see the ESSER funding going away. A lot of districts receive ESSER funding. Yeah, the ESSER funds are done as of 12/31/2024.
Okay.
So we're supposed to try to have it done, being spent by June 30th of 2024. And we met today and we're going to try to get all that done.
Yeah.
But the ESSER funding is going to go away. A lot of districts have used it as a stopgap to help in places where they're seeing. Some people actually use it to build some buildings, which I don't recommend. There's a lot of caveats that went into place with that, following Davis-Bacon Wage Act and things that I don't think people took into account when they decided to do these, and I'm just glad we didn't do anything like that. So the ESSER funding, what's going to happen is anything that we put in place with ESSER funding that we're not going to have funding for anymore, we're either going to have to figure out how to put it back into the general fund or let that service go. I don't think we have a lot of that here in Tip City. I think we've used it for one and done items mostly.
Everything I remember, it's been, yeah, one and done.
Yeah, we had cameras and smart boards and some summer school staff and some software programs and things. But
Didn't we buy all the kids, didn't we go one-to-one device with that money too?
we did buy some Chromebooks
Yeah, we
when
bought
at first, that was ESSER
Chromebooks.
1 money.
Yeah.
And we did buy a bunch of Chromebooks
But
with
that's
that.
when we went one-on-one, one-to-one.
Yeah.
Or almost one-to-one.
Almost one-to-one.
Almost, yeah.
Yep.
Other than Nevin Coppin.
Again,
That's
this,
pretty close.
yeah. Again, this page shows how our cash balance is going below the 60-day reserves. And so new state budget, House Bill 33 is providing new money, but it's not a lot. And this is not a correct slide. We are not on the guarantee. We are currently being funded. So that's a misprint right there. And again, talking about ESSER funds, it helped us to save in some general funding, but it's going to go away and we'll just see what comes back. And our future funding is uncertain still for 26 through 28, as the Fair School Funding Plan has only been funded for the next 2 years. It was supposed to be a 6-year plan. Years 1 and 2 are in the past. We're currently in years 3 and 4, and then we still have years 5 and 6 to deal with. And the current plan could disappear if the state decides to change the budget. I mean, the foundation formula years ago was considered unconstitutional. I don't think it has ever been determined if it was back to being allowable, but I know that the funding plan has changed numerous times in the past 20 years. Numerous times as they try to determine how can we fund this. So we'll most likely see it change again. I think they're closer with this one though. This plan has been better. So, and we will also still have programs like College Credit Plus. The X-Ed where we're losing students to college classes, which is great for those students. But we are the ones that pay for that program.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we also have our excess costs, and that's where we're educating students from other districts and their special needs, whether they're core place costs. And we're responsible to pay. I'm sorry, if our students are going to another district and their special needs and they're excessive, their costs are much higher than what the state provides, we're on the hook for those expenses as well. That's the excess costs. So any other questions?
Um,
Yes.
So Ohio school finance is the most unique in the United States.
Is it?
Did you not know that?
Well, I knew it was different.
It really
It's
is.
different.
I don't know if I learned this at Capitol Conference or just over the years, but because I attend all these, different classes, but yeah, it's it doesn't have like a formula that's constant and consistent. As you said, it changes every year, depending on the state budget. And being a school treasurer in Ohio is apparently the hardest state to be a school treasurer in, just because of all of the unknowns. Everything keeps changing, nothing's constant. So it's a lot to keep up with. It's a lot to keep up with. And doing a 5-year forecast, all of that just makes it a superpower. It's impossible,
Well, I like
But I
that.
like that you're always conservative.
Well, I like that when I go through the forecast, I know where the numbers come from.
Yeah.
And I have, if I were to pull up my spreadsheet, you would see all my notes on why things are increasing or why we can cut.
Right, and treasurers have, it's just, where do you want to put it? Are you general, whatever, and you always like the capital outlay and like you mentioned earlier, the roof, the boilers. I like that you're always putting money into that fund to kind of, to protect us, because you know things are gonna happen. And I like the conservativeness of your 5-year forecast.
Well, that's information that comes from Mrs. Hagan.
Yeah, of course.
I'm only as good as the information that I have, and Mrs. Hagan has been very forthcoming in telling me our building situation.
He's on top of the buildings, yeah.
So,
So anyways, well, thank you to Kim as well, sir.
Unfortunately, what it does is it doesn't provide for a lot of innovative growth in our district and makes us look at, what I'm hearing you say is that we're going to have to look internally for where we can cut. And I'm concerned about.
operational efficiencies.
Well, of course.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
like to use the word cut
Right,
anymore. I've heard that
operational
that's a bad
efficiencies.
word, and we shouldn't say that.
Right,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, I would like to think that the district is still embracing the value of being innovative and how to expand opportunities for students related to educational pursuits. And what I mean by that is providing an array of courses and services, and that takes personnel to do that. And so unfortunately, this forecast doesn't, and there's no fault of it, we've done a nice job of explaining the circumstances where we're at. It doesn't give a lot of information for future boards to figure out how they can follow up on those recommendations of how we can diversify the offerings that we provide to the students.
Yeah.
We can't really build or create new positions with this kind of situation moving forward. Unless we look at some creative ways that are not just operational efficiencies, but how to find more revenue.
Yeah. Agree.
How much does the district pay to have this 5-year forecast completed by an outside entity?
I'm not gonna say it's completed by an outside entity. I'm gonna say that it is assisted by an outside.
Assisted, how,
I believe it's over 6, but less than 7. I can't recall.
6,000 to 7,000?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
And is there, because I know that some treasurers do it internally, they do their own 5-year forecast, they don't.
Yeah.
well, you do too, I mean, you do the,
I did this myself for a few
right.
years, and I was using K-12's model, which I found out was a no-no. So I was using their intellectual property without their permission.
oh heck,
So I contacted them and got legit. I didn't realize that
make
that
sure you
was.
delete that part. out
No,
of the-
that's what it is.
I'm joking,
I've been
I'm
upfront with,
I- Yeah, you have a great relationship with them. You know, I'm totally teasing.
I was very open with Mr. Moore and said, I apologize, but I would like to use their service. And they are a wealth of knowledge and information on current finances in the state. And they help come up with a lot of the trends and they have trainings throughout the year that tell us what's going on
Mhm.
and what's going to happen to the funding. And I wouldn't have that information if I didn't have them. So,
Great job, Dave.
yeah. And if I did do this on my own, it would take
A lot.
many more days. It would be
Yeah.
a few weeks.
I was gonna say, it'd be half your month. If
Yeah.
not, yeah.
So in a nutshell, when you say we're in deficit spending right now, what does that mean? in
It means
common
we're spending
more than
more
we're
money
taking?
than we're bringing in.
Okay, I mean,
So,
that's what I assume, but I'm like, just,
So I hate to keep talking about Milton, but I do find that it was a good experience to go somewhere else and come back.
Absolutely.
Milton Union saw their first deficit spending at the end of fiscal year 21.
Oh, right when you went.
Right when I showed up,
Congratulations.
they were,
Welcome.
but it was only, I want to say 32,000 less
Oh,
than what they
okay.
brought in.
That's not massive.
But then they just saw it starting to go just like
Yeah.
ours, just
For sure.
And so the 2022 ending cash balance was more, I think it was $600,000. And then it went up. It's exactly what we saw. We saw that $700,000 from 2021 to 2022 or 2020 to 2021 and then $1 million. So it's the trend. And unless we find new revenue or change how we're doing our expenses, that's what's going to happen. I'm sorry to take up so much time in the meeting for that.
Well, this is the most important thing. you
well,
have.
it's not,
Our society
it's
is hurt.
important. I
It's the
mean,
most important
not-
thing we have to talk about.
Yeah,
Really is. I mean, really.
Thank you for letting me talk.
thank
yes.
you for your input.
Once this is approved, I will then take this information and I will submit it to the Ohio Department of Education. It gets uploaded. And anybody can come and find it on these,
State
it
auditor website.
wouldn't be the auditor's website, it'd be, well, they're not Ohio Department of Education anymore, it's due.
Oh,
Department of Education Workforce.
Workforce.
okay.
And educational workforce, and the assumptions will be on there as well. And anybody can also pull it up here online through board docs
Board
as
docs.
well, it'll stay there, so. Okay, well, thank you, everyone.
All right,
Thank you, Dave.
so at this time, I will entertain a motion to recommend the approval of the November 2023 5-year forecast.
Oh my gosh, you let me talk all that
Wait, I
time
think
without
we-
doing a first and second?
Mm-mm.
We didn't.
We did not.
Okay. So
Dave went
moved.
ahead and talked to.
So
I
moved.
broke my own rule.
That's
I
okay.
thought we did. That's, okay, so moved.
I was going to ask you, but then I was like, no,
He was
you're
on a roll. He was on
I'm
a
not
roll.
doing that to you.
I'll second.
Okay,
Man. Beating myself up now.
don't, you did fine, Dave.
All right, ready for the vote?
Okay,
Well,
yeah,
I just want to put in a real quick discussion
Mhm.
piece on that.
yeah, go ahead.
Voting on this, it's my understanding, because I have had that conversation with the auditors down in Dayton. I said, I'm not a finance person, so I feel like if I'm voting yes on something and I don't feel that that's really, I'm credible enough and knowledgeable enough to, and they said, no, that's not what the vote is actually doing. You're just voting on the fact that it was presented and reviewed, and I just want to make that clear. Because I'm not a finance person, so,
Thanks for that clarification.
yeah.
Okay. Go and take a vote unless anyone else has discussion.
Dunaway,
Yes.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Drum,
Yes,
Maines,
Yes.
Zakor.
Yes.
okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Dave.
Next is old business, Tip Pride.
Public records request,
Oh,
just an update.
sorry. there was
I don't
a
believe we have
listed,
any
I'm so
outstanding
sorry.
public records. That's it.
Awesome, fantastic.
Finally.
Why would you change it? Not from-
It's all right. I attended a session on public records at OSBA.
Awesome, we're good.
Okay,
I'm sure we were famous up there. Well, let's talk about tips.
I didn't hear us mention, so,
At the records request meeting?
I don't know about that, but
Yeah, well, I'm
no,
sure-
no other meeting were we mentioned,
Yeah.
so I felt
Sure, we're
that
famous.
was good.
Was there any clarity on the turnaround time to respond to those, or is it still just sort of a
It's
cloudy?
reasonable, depending on the
Reasonable.
records, and if you have to send it to an attorney, that makes it even worse
Okay.
for the length of time. But I did confirm that, we have to pay for it, so
Could we have what?
that we are on the hook for when we have to consult an attorney with the records.
Oh, of course,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I said it in jest, knowing that
If we
we had
would,
to.
they would be cut down to pretty much 1%, nothing. Very interesting.
Okay, next, old business, tip pride discussion.
Get me start?
Yeah, you,
Oh, yeah. So I just wanted to, obviously, we just got that letter last week with our update. I just wanted to know what your thoughts were on that, where the district stands on that. I had to read it 3 or 4 times to kind of even get the gist of what it was saying, doing, trying to accomplish. It was kind of nebulous.
I think it's not our responsibility.
So I
I think it's, if we wanna sit down, and have a meeting, I'm
Mhm.
open to that, but as far as expending any time and resources.
Excuse me, that pounding.
I know
is
there's a
very
basketball out
distracting.
there.
I can-
Somebody has a basketball.
As far as using school resources at this time, I see no reason
Mhm.
to be using it.
Okay.
It's, the letter just asks about getting together to meet.
Mhm.
That's the gist of it, from what I got.
That's-
I didn't want to like jump in when you're
No,
still talking.
no,
Okay,
no.
yeah. So that's kind of how I feel. And for one thing, there were many inaccuracies or misinformation in the letter. I don't want to go through those like, sentence by sentence. But when they say, when they use the words like approval and oversight, there was no approval and oversight. I mean, tip pride that was how it was set up, but that never happened. So we could go through the history of the last 7 years. And I mean, the bottom line is what we're dealing with, what was supposed to happen and what happened never did. So there's no way to reconcile that. And I I feel the same way. We keep saying that the attorneys keep telling us that we have no obligation financially, we're not tied in with this group, but yet we still keep not, they're new, but under the previous superintendent, we had that lawsuit and we ended up using taxpayer money to handle that lawsuit. And my whole thing is why? Those contracts were never board approved. So it doesn't have anything to do with us. And my hope is that we don't spend taxpayer money on this. We just went over the 5-year forecast. And the last thing we need is, a $30,000 legal bill on stuff that we're not tied in with. So that's my 2 cents. Oh, and the other thing is, one of the things on there, Power Solutions, I've never seen a contract for that. So how do we reconcile with tip pride? I guess it doesn't matter because we're not, the only contract that does concern me is the contract for Mott's, the turf. Because I'm sure that we clean that maybe annually. I don't know if we repair it. I don't know much about the football, program or the turf itself, but I'm assuming there's repairs and maybe maintenance contracts. I don't know, but that would be the one contract that would, am I wrong? That would concern the school?
I think it's under warranty.
Well, we should have a contract though, because, right, that's school. Dave, is that school money that we're
I think
using for repairs and
That's a
cleaning?
separate issue than tip pride.
But it was done through Tip Pride. Tip Pride handled that Mott's contractor, and the check was made to Bruns. It was a whole big thing that never got solved. But I would like, now
can
that
find out.
Tip Pride is dissolving and the community has to take over that project, I think that we need to look at that contract because we've never seen it.
Happy to pull it
Yeah,
up and see if we can get it.
Good luck. I mean, we've tried to find it. I don't know if we would maybe start with Bruns Contracting and see if they have it.
Is it really any difference based on what you're saying, if I'm understanding you correctly, Teresa? It's really, to me, the example you're using is that if we accepted a donation
Mm-hmm.
and that product that we got was under warranty, and at some point that warranty either needed to be extended or the product needed to be replaced, I think that's the district's responsibility to repair that. Because
Correct.
the district is using that product.
Correct.
So
So that's what I'm saying. If we have to clean, because we don't have the contract, we don't know what's under warranty. We don't know if we get 5 annual cleanings. We don't know if we get $100,000 of repairs. We've never seen the actual contract. You can't endorse or uphold a contract if you've never physically seen the contract. Where is the contract? We've been trying to find that for 7, 8 years.
I'm not sure there is a contract. It's a product that was donated to the district.
It wasn't, it wasn't donated. No one donated that turf. The turf was paid for by like Kathy said in her statement, it was paid with the $750,000 premier money, the Tip City school money. Use that premier 10-year contract money to do the turf, but somehow the check ended up going to Bruns. Bruns did the contract because nobody was overseeing Tip Pride in the school. It's been a big old mess that's never been straightened around.
So Mr. Moran, you'll find the receipt.
I'll find
for
the I'll do my
purchase
best to
of
find the
turf and
contract.
what comes out of it.
Yeah, I'll talk with Moats to find out exactly.
Is it Mott's? I'm sorry, am I saying that wrong?
I think it's
Mott's?
Moats.
Mott's? Okay, sorry.
No, you're
Well,
okay.
I've
It
never
looks like
seen it,
Mott's.
so I can't pronounce it because I've never seen the contract. Thank you.
Well, is it a contract or a receipt? I think you
Probably both.
It's probably both. If you buy a car, it comes with a warranty, unless you decline the warranty. When you buy brand new turf, I'm assuming it came with some type of cleaning, repair, warranty, etc. You don't just get $750,000 for the turf and like, here you go, good luck with it, lemon law as is. I can't see that happening. Who would sign up for that?
I'll look for that.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to go? I just didn't want to.
Did you guys have anything else? No, okay. You're up, Ann.
So. I didn't read it the way you're saying, Mr. Moran. You see it as just sort of a letter, let's get together and talk about things. I didn't read it that way at all. I read that this is litigious. That this is the New Carlisle Bank hired a law firm to represent them, and they are requesting to be paid back almost $400,000. Are you shaking your head now?
They're not gonna get it from us.
Yeah, we're not.
No, I'm not saying where they're gonna
Right.
get it. I'm going back to the bones of this letter. And I don't see this letter as just something, let's get together and talk. This is a letter that's giving notice that we are trying that this law firm is trying to recover the loss that New Carlisle is experiencing of $371,000 or $372,000.
That's how I read it. Great.
And that the parties they're trying to recover the loss from are listed up here. Scott Investments, Tip City Village School District, Edison State College, and Power Solutions. So this is clearly, and it goes on to say, and I'm very concerned and disturbed. Now, I've only been here 4 years. I know Mrs. Dunaway has the longest history. Are you the longest?
I was here
history?
when this happened. Yeah,
Okay.
originally.
And so I'm this whole thing, I've been kind of paying attention, I mean, it's just, I don't follow, because on the one hand, they say that the school district expressly acknowledged and endorsed these agreements, and that's these written agreements with donors requiring payments. The school district expressly acknowledged and endorsed these agreements. Well, that express acknowledgement would have to come through the Board of Education. I went back through the notes and looked, and I see nothing of any board activity resolution that had these agreements. If you all know something, I'd like to see it, because I spent considerable time going back through that. And I'm not finding it. What I did find is that there was some activity between a person who was on the board and went to city council with the former superintendent and talked about this
School attorney.
in school, okay, about this idea of Tip Pride. And what evolved from that point forward, I don't know, but it did not evolve from my research from the Tip City Board of Education. And we had one board member who was constantly saying no board member acts alone. Well, I think that that's exactly kind of what my impression is that did happen. A person who was serving on the board at that time went to city council and started this dialogue, but it was never formally approved, or I don't even know if the board at the time even knew that activity was happening. And so this letter bothers me because it's saying that it's, the school district expressly acknowledged and endorsed these agreements. Well, as evidenced by what? Is what I'd like to know. The school district, then it goes on to say that, given such, the school district by and through its school board entered into various agreements with Tip Pride, authorizing it to enter into agreements with third-party donors. Again, as evidenced by what? When did the school board do that? I didn't find it. I'm assuming this, they're inferring, I think this was all before 2020 when I joined the board, but I'm saying I went back several years and I could not find it. Okay, so donors have failed for whatever reason to bring forth the funds. And then it has come to the New Carlisle Bank attention that members of the school district school board in their official and individual capacities have made a concerted effort to impede Tip Pride's ability to solicit and collect funds necessary to meet its obligation. I've been on this board 4 years. I don't know where anybody has done that, has made through their official and individual capacities a concerted effort to impede their ability. What does that, that is offensive. I know I haven't done it. I don't know of anybody on our board that has done it. And let's not be confusing a board member asking questions about the operations of our stadium or Tip Pride. That's not the same as impeding their ability to solicit and collect funds. Again, as evidenced by what? That you're impeding the ability to solicit and collect. So that's, I'm hoping, Mr. Marianne, that because I'm not going to be here in January, and I hope the new board will take some investment into this, because it's disparaging and it's not, and it's wrong from what I know. This type of disparagement is wrong, and I'm glad we're not putting legal fees into this right now, because I think that it is. They're just casting a fishing net, trying to pull in something from somewhere. And then the final part, I just wanted to say that we have to preserve evidence. It'd be nice to get some of that evidence to preserve,
Yeah.
but
If we get the contract, we'll share it.
and not destroy any of this. So my next question is, because this is clear at the end there, because of this litigious language, please be advised you're obligated to preserve evidence, not to destroy it. And it goes on what all that is: computers, electronics, et cetera, et cetera. So what does that mean in terms of, is the district going to enter into a litigation hold on that, or what? What does that mean?
As far as I'm concerned, again, we're not destroying anything. We have a
Yeah,
records request. We'll have a records request to pull up anything we have. If that's
to preserve evidence. Yeah, we're trying to get to some of it too, so.
they have a request for something, we will see if we have any of that documentation.
So when I read this, I was just like, I was really surprised, and I don't know what their relationship is with those other donors. Like I said, that was all before I joined the board, but when they start pointing the finger at the board itself, when in fact, I don't know that we even have any contractual formalized arrangement agreements, documents, etc. That's I think it needs to, it's just wrong. And I hope the new board will not, I hope they will take note of what has not been done. Oh, and then in December when Tip Pride did come in, and I thought their presentation was really great. It was an hour. The overhead slides, I believe it's slide number 10 at the very bottom, says there is no financial responsibility between the district. You remember that one?
I do
Amber?
remember that.
We also got a weekly board update from Mr. Stefanik a couple weeks prior to that. So
Saying,
we know the district, but we keep spending taxpayer money on these Tip Pride issues, and that's my concern. We have
Well-
got to stop.
Well, I do want to say thank you, Mr. Moran, for not running to the legal counsel right away and
Yeah,
racking up
nothing.
more dollars when we're already in deficit spending,
Right.
because like I said, I just don't understand what evidence is propelling this type of dialogue with tip schools.
Who's directing this spending
Who?
with these lawyers? I'm like, help me understand
Well, that's a good question.
What
That
is it,
been-
Joellen?
directing the information going to attorneys that you're saying that we're spending.
The way I read it in this letter, because I read it like 3 times, I just really, I believe it's New Carlisle Bank.
No, I'm asking
No,
this
she's
is done away.
talk-
She's
yeah.
made that
Oh.
statement 3 times now. What does that mean? The district has been spending money on attorneys.
Previously. Yeah, we had a situation that came up.
Previously, yeah.
It,
Is the board directing
Yeah.
that spending?
it was a board member. Yeah, so that was a little concerning.
The board is incurring those costs.
It should be the board as a majority, but things seem to be happening without the majority of the board, just a one-off, and that's not okay. And going back to the contracts, the board, other than obviously the person that was at the city council meeting, it wasn't until maybe a year ago when a community member came in and was talking about all these tip pride contracts. I never knew they existed, and I never knew that the Tip City Schools law firm, by the direction of a board member, did all these contracts, and it wasn't even a template or a boilerplate. So each contract that I ended up receiving, as we all did, was very different. So that's expensive when you're creating, each contract is basically its own contract. And none of those contracts were board approved because the board never knew they existed, or that legal counsel, Tip City Schools legal counsel, was involved. We had no idea. It just happened, and years later, we found out about it. So that's a little concerning. It's very concerning.
But this current board is the one incurring costs with the current council to investigate, or maybe that's the wrong word, to look into those contracts, to determine that there is no liability of the district.
That has been established for years. We already
I'm
know
just
that.
asking Is that what you're saying?
I don't even know what you're saying. It's been established time and time again by every board, the 8 years I've been here. We know that the school has no financial tie to Tip Pride, but somehow we keep spending a lot of taxpayer money on Tip Pride legal issues and writing contracts. I don't even know all of the stuff that we're spending taxpayer money on, because it's always done without board approval.
Without board
So I
approval.
can't even answer your question. I just know that when I receive the attorney invoices, there's lots of Tip Pride work on there that I never authorized as a board member, nor did the board as a majority. So I can't answer your question. Only the board member that did that could do that. I don't know who it is, but it's happened because
Well,
I've seen the bills.
and you know, we all know that this removal process of 2 board members went on for a year and how many months, operating in the
2.
shadows.
2 years.
I mean, give me a break. You want to talk about operating in the shadows? When you start entangling this, and there was no board resolution, board members, the board didn't even know that it was happening. I'm referring to the board before I joined it, brings new meaning to operating in the shadows. So it's just the old trick, deflect, blame them, so you shift the focus off of one's own behaviors and actions. And Mr. Moran, I really do appreciate the fact that at least at this stage, you're not spending more tax dollars on this. And I also appreciate your position that this is not a high priority, getting our facilities, and, a long-term solution to our facilities is the priority.
Yeah, as stated before, the stadium issue is a low priority. The high priority is taking care of the educational
Thank you.
facilities for our kids.
So Joel, to answer your question, 7 years ago, I got a text message from a city council member that said, hey, there is a board member at our city council meeting with the superintendent and your school attorney. And I said, for what reason? And she said, they're here to talk about Tip Pride. I was a board member back then and I knew nothing of it.
My question had to do with what expenses in 2023 were incurred through the lawyer from from questions that came out of this board
Mhm.
that the superintendent and treasurer sent to the attorney to get answered related to determining if any current.
I can send you the attorney invoices and you can read them all. They're on there.
I'm just asking.
Okay,
what
well, they're in
expenses
there.
Were incurred in 2023 to determine if. the
Well, we got
district
sued by the
liable.
foot and care, the podiatrist sued us and we paid for that. Which I don't know why, because we were not financially on the hook. So that was extremely upsetting to me. They,
They're trying to sue Tip Pride.
right, but we paid those, our attorneys paid that legal expense. And that's what Joanne's
Because they looked
asking.
into the
Was that-
contract.
Was that true?
Well,
Yeah, it's true. It's in the
Is that true?
attorney invoices.
I believe.
the way I
Yeah, no,
understood,
it's
because I was
absolutely
in
true.
that, in
I have the invoices
yeah, I
to show
understand,
it.
but I was in that meeting. The way I understood it, the attorney was not so much just simply saying, I looked over the situation
Mhm.
and from my legal perspective, you
There's
guys
no
are
law.
good. The
Right.
tip,
So the
Tip forward.
district's attorney looked over the documentation to determine that the district had no financial risk
yes,
of liability
Or
or a
in-
lawsuit that was between Tip Pride
and
and a donor.
that's the way I understood it,
So that's a
Joanne.
different statement. than what
That's
you're
the way I
saying.
understood it.
That's.
And as far as what generated that, now, I may be wrong if you guys remember. I don't recall us voting on,
No, we did
assume
not
it was
vote.
an administrative issue that.
We did not vote on that.
There
As a
was
board.
a-
I think that was even.
It was before,
You were still on a
you-
bridge contract
yeah,
when it happened.
but it
yeah.
was a concern because we were unsure of what was going to happen in the future, so
We were and we weren't, because my argument is, we already know that we're not on the hook.
Yeah.
Stop engaging
we're
in
just
these
trying
legal
I know,
expenses.
we're just
Like,
trying to.
just-
I
it has
know,
to just
Teresa, we're
stop.
just trying to explain it to her.
Well, I'm
so
trying,
that
that's
way
what I'm
she
trying to answer Joan's
understands.
question. It has to just stop. We know that we're not financially on the hook.
Yeah.
But we keep going down this rabbit hole of, oh, just check and just read this and
Yeah,
just
that-
read that. The answer is no, we're
Yeah.
not. So just like,
Yeah.
stop spending money on that. It's just gonna perpetuate and go on and on. It's never gonna end.
Yeah, so on that note, can we go past it?
Well,
and move to
did your
consent?
question get answered, Joella? Okay.
Okay. Awesome. All right, so now I will take an approval for the consent agenda items.
I'll make the motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second,
Okay, motion by Mr. Main, seconded by Mrs. Dunaway.
Oh, you didn't, okay, never mind.
Yes. Mr. Stevens, we call the vote.
Give me one moment.
Okay,
I apologize. The resolution was listed under budget source.
yeah. That's funny.
Mr. Mays,
Yes.
Mrs. Dunaway.
yes.
Mrs. Drum,
Yes.
Mrs. Heatherly,
Yes.
Mrs. Zakor.
Yes,
Okay, on to new business. First is the Tip City Public Library donation. I need a motion for approval to accept the following donations received from the Tip City Public Library. Hold on, I gotta read them. Okay. Audiobooks on CD, Middle School, My Brother is a Big Fat Liar by James Patterson. Middle School Ultimate Showdown by James Patterson. My Bixley's Last Day by John David Anderson. Boys in the Boat by Daniel James Brown. Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. The Book Thief by Marcus Zusax. Thank you, guys.
I think you just gotta approve the agenda.
Okay, well,
I always say, well,
I like to read them.
on donations, we kind of read them one by one.
Yeah. Playaways, Predator's Gold by Philip Reeve. Artemis Fowl by Ian Colfer. Yes, Allegiant by Veronica Roth. I need better eyeballs. Lives of Extraordinary Women by Kathleen Kroll. Ever Found by Neil Susserman, and Countdown by Deborah Wiles.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Main.
Second.
Okay, second by Mrs. Heatherly. Any discussion?
Excuse me.
thank you.
Yes, I'd like to thank the Tip City Public Library for their donation of all these fantastic books. All right,
Thanks, Lisa.
all right, we'll take a vote.
Mays,
Yes.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Drum,
Yes,
Dunaway.
Yes.
Zakor.
Yes,
motion passes. All right, guys, I gotta write stuff out in 1 second. Next is a motion for approval of a donation received from Stephen Pearson, DDS, in the amount of $750 to help the high school swim team.
I'll move.
Moved by Mrs. Heatherly,
I'll second.
seconded by Mrs. Zakor. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Heatherly,
Thank you.
awesome. We'll go ahead and take a vote.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Zakor.
Yes.
Drum,
Yes,
Dunaway,
Yes,
Maines.
Yes.
motion passes. Next is the motion to approve the acceptance of $1,424 from the Miami County Foundation for the following grant purchases. Tippecanoe Middle School Harmony Director, Stephen, I always say it wrong, Monath.
Manette.
I did it right. $740. Tip High School Robotics Equipment, Annette Malott for $684.
so moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Dunaway, seconded by Mrs. Zakor. Is there any discussion?
Could you go first?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm good.
Thank you.
Right, any other discussion? Thank you again for the donation. And wait. Okay, I was gonna ask a question, but I'm good. Go on. We'll take a vote.
Dunaway.
Yeah.
Zakor,
Yes.
Drum,
Yes,
Heatherly,
Yes.
Maines.
Yes.
okay. Next is a motion for approval of the following attached policy updates from the 42.1 August 2003 update from Neola.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Dunaway,
Second.
second by Mrs. Zakor. Mrs. Dunaway, any discussion?
No, thanks to you and Mrs. Zakor, Mr. Moran and Norm for this very, very large, time consuming policy update.
I agree. So it's a big committee task, so thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
I've actually learned a lot, so I've enjoyed it. So thank you. Okay,
So just to help me, this is a first read or second?
second,
Second read.
Based on.
yes,
And these are the bylaws, so I remember I separated them out. Just
yeah,
in case there's any voting issues.
No, these are not the bylaws, the first one.
this,
No, this is the regular one, the bylaws are the second.
yeah, well, we
Right.
said, yeah, we
These are just
separated.
policy,
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
He meant separate, like two separate.
Yeah,
two
that was
separate.
nice too. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, I should have done it before.
Yeah.
Because it
good.
caused you confusion at the last.
yeah,
That was-
sorry about that.
I should have knew that was done, sorry.
We're not your typical board though, so
No.
you had no way to anticipate.
Well,
You had no way.
no,
to
because Ann
anticipate that.
talked,
Yeah.
we talked about this,
It was
is
good.
bylaws need a different number of
Yeah,
votes to
that's
change,
smart.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Thank you,
should've-
Mrs. Zakor.
You're
Why don't you sign
welcome.
up for a policy committee?
all right, we'll go ahead and take a vote on this.
That's definitely a good committee for you.
Dunaway,
Yes.
Zakor,
Yes.
Drum,
Yes,
Heatherly,
Yes.
Maines.
Yeah.
okay. Next, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the below attached bylaw updates from the 42.1 August 2023 update.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Dunaway,
I'll second.
second by Mrs. Heatherly. Any discussion?
Oh, no, ditto to what I said last time.
All right,
If Mrs. Heatherly doesn't have anything.
No, yep,
You're
no,
good.
Thank you again for.
all right, Mr. Stevens, we'll take. a
No,
vote.
I wanted to just tag on to this real quick.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. The voting 0167 bylaw. So I went on the internet because I really didn't understand where we got that majority vote, but with the asterisk.
Uh-huh.
It's like, what is that?
Yeah,
And then when you look down, the asterisk is what I'm going by memory because I don't have the old policy in front of me. What was it, 2/3, which is 4 people?
yes,
Okay. It's not in the statute. I went through those. And so I can understand maybe this district wanting to have 4 votes in order to issue a bond. You know, I can understand that. That's, yeah, it's a big deal. But it didn't make sense to have majority of the board with an asterisk now saying that the majority of the board is 4 votes. That's contradict, for a 5-person board, it's just not congruent. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out that this is not majority of the board. We're not, in my opinion, changing anything. I just think the health job is a typo.
Well, and that's like.
What do you think, Amber? Was that your?
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
we talked to Norm to try
Yeah,
to
we
figure out
talked to Norm.
why, and nobody could give a specific reason, and like you said,
as to why it was like that.
it was an old temple that hadn't been updated in a long
Mhm.
time.
On the converse side of that, I didn't see anything that prohibits putting a bylaw in place to make it for board
Correct.
members to vote to issue a bond.
Right.
So that may be something, that interests the new board that they may want to look at. They may not, they may feel fine. It's good the way it is. But then I just wanted to reemphasize this, whatever we're voting on today, absolutely does not affect the voting requirement of 4 board members to change any bylaw.
Correct.
Correct.
And that I feel like we really, I just hope that always stays protected, because I think that's makes a lot of sense for a lot of different reasons.
Mhm.
So that's my take.
Any other discussion?
Yeah. I'm just favor of the house, sort of. Don't you think that the changes going on at that level,
Mhm.
that's what you're saying, though?
But I
You
am,
can't just come in and-
Joellen, because we're changing seats every 2 years, every 3
Yeah.
years, and it's just like, oh, I mean, if you have 3 people, get that majority faction, minority, and then their majority, now they might be the minority.
Yeah.
I just think it
It's
makes
good
a
to keep
lot of
it.
sense, and I'm
Mhm.
hoping the new board will see it that way as well, that to keep that 4 in place, because it
It's a good catch.
it keeps continuity and chaos to a minimum.
Agreed.
Okay, that's my story.
All right, any other discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote.
Dunaway,
Yes.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Drum,
Yes.
Maines,
Yes.
Zakor.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on. Building bond. A motion for approval of a resolution of necessity of bond issue in the amount of
You be determined.
to be determined and to submit the question of such bond issue to the electors and requesting state consents and special needs designation in connection therewith.
Make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Maines,
I'll second it.
second by Mrs. Heatherly. Is there any discussion?
So before we go any further, we're probably going to amend this motion at the end of this discussion. Is that the way that happened last time?
Yes.
So we're going to end up with a specific
Number.
term to
Mhm.
put in and amend the motion.
Correct.
I'll make sure I'm understanding what's going on.
And Mr. Weekly from Baird Financial, Mr. Shaw from Bradley Payne, our municipal advisor, and our investment with Mr. Weekly. And this is where making sure that I've given you the information in regards to the total cost of that phase 1 of the ELP, which is the $87,008,933. That takes care of making sure that we can get our building done, and then I think, and Mrs. Zakor, when we spoke on our phone, thanks for bringing this up, but making sure that people understood. We're asking this money, but the total project is bigger. But that money, we're not going back for more money for the high school renovations, tear down of Broadway, LT ball, things like that. That money's gonna come from the state because we're spending the majority of local funds. We're going over our threshold to do that now. And then we're not coming back to ask for more money. This money is good. The money to do those other things will be coming from the state, 100% by the state.
Phase 2. right?
Phase 2.
Phase
as well.
Phase 2, okay.
Yes. Yeah. So this is just taking care of getting the money in place so we can take care of the facility of the K-8, pre-K-8 building. And the next part, anything else would be the phase 2. Is a separate and not going for more money. There. The other thing we've talked about with the millage and Dan and Mark may be able to jump into, feel free if I'm screwing up or regardless, but when we talked, you know, we talked about roughly a 5% rate. Things are a little under 5% now. We've actually thought we should probably put a little bit of buffer on interest rates to 5.25, to 5 and 5.25 on a range of interest rates. That moves the number to about 9.08 for that millage over 30 years. But the difference between 30 years and 37 years is $24 million, $27 million in interest.
Wow.
So just like your house, car, the interest. Why I like the lower millage if we went to 37. Dealing with 37 or $27 million of interest.
It was 24.
24,
20,
26.
20, okay,
Keep in
24,
mind,
sorry.
that's still an estimate.
It's an estimate of
Bond structural, it will
Yeah.
change. based on structure, but about that.
about 24 million, sorry, not 27, 24 million, thank you.
Still a lot. Doesn't matter.
That,
Yeah,
That's,
it's
that's
that's a
huge.
7-year
It's a big
agreement.
number.
It's
That's a
big
lot
number.
that the community has to pay.
Mhm.
And as much as, again, I like lower millage rates, I would like to keep as much money in the people's pockets as possible too. So that's the difference between the 30-year and the 37.
Saving the taxpayers. 20-some
it's
million.
interest,
27
yes.
million. And just for clarification, that was for 30 years.
30 years
30
versus
years.
37.
And we're looking at 90,
We're looking at
88.
$87,833.
so we're not in. Are we discussing increasing that?
No.
Or no, we're just staying there?
My recommendation is that's what we have from OFCC. That's the number we have to live with and deal with. We could go, at the previous board meeting, the 31st, the board said no more than 88 million.
Yeah.
We took out the storm shelters. We did that. We looked at these things and said, what needs to be in first phase? And those payoffs and the knockdown of Nevin Copic, typically middle school, all those things are in phase 1 to take care of that. And hopefully, if interest rates continue to go down in 9 months when the bonds are passed, if the bond is successful, they're even lower, and then the millage rate's lower. And I think we're at the high end, I'm hoping. But we we're guessing.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're using information that we know right now.
So did I understand you correctly to just say in that whole introduction that from our previous vote, we agreed not to go over 90,
88.
88. But did I understand you correctly to say that you are recommending that we anticipate a little bit of bump up in interest rates? And so that we need to adjust that amount based on that?
No,
I have those two things mixed up.
correct. The $87,008,933 doesn't change. It's whether we build it in that a little bit of a buffer for interest rates in 9 months. What could they be? If they go down, the millage goes down as well. Yeah, we just want to be as based on the information we have right now, we think it's going to, the high likelihood it's going to be between 5 and 5.25. It could be less.
Okay, and then Mr. Shaw, did I understand you correctly to say that once the bond goes out for sale, not using the right term, that amount could slightly change? And what are the factors that would influence that change?
Yeah, so there's 3 parts to this, and one, to Mr. Moran's point, is the project dollars are the project dollars, so that's what the school district's going to see. There's 2 things we control, the board controls right now is the term, how long you borrow it. And the third thing we don't control, but is an estimate, and that's the interest rate. The interest rate is going to control what the taxpayers pay, because what you're authorizing is the issue of the debt. So when we go to price the bonds, that interest rate might be higher than what the estimate is, or it might be lower. And so right now, we're pricing today, we think it'd be around 5%. But we're saying probably 5.25 is a good idea because we don't know 6 months from now, right?
That's what I needed to hear.
The important part of that, though, is if the interest rate is low, but the interest rate is higher, it's only controlling how much the taxpayers spend. It isn't controlling what the school district gets.
No, I understand.
Right, so lower interest rates or better pricing than what we put on the ballot means that the taxpayer is saving dollars out of their pocket. The project is the project. It's not going to change anything in how much they're spending. That help?
Yes, thank you for clarifying that.
So the question on really the interest rate was, what do you want folks to see first? You know, because this is the estimate. This is what we think it's going to be. We think it's going to be between 5 and 5.25. But if we knew what it was, nobody would be in the room today at all. Right, so we have to land on something to set that number.
And in previous meetings, we had discussed terms, meaning 30 years, 37 years, 38 years. And today you're recommending 30 years.
I recommended 30 years because of that steep amount of interest.
Yes. I just want to give you the chance to say it again so people would hear
Yes.
You might as well say the 24 million too. Get it all out there.
Yeah.
Don't just say half of the story.
24 million seems like a lot of money to pay, a lot of.
Absolutely.
It is a lot. It's,
it. So it's all-
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all interest.
It's
It is a
in
lot.
somebody else's pocket.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I think 30 years is a term that many can understand when there's more.
Any other discussion?
I do know in the terms of the financing of the high school, Dave, I think you've been pretty instrumental in helping to refinance that when opportunities have been provided at least twice.
Yeah, I did a refinance in 15 and 16. We cut down the interest rate, which saved on that. And then Mrs. Fox also did another refinance with Barrett Financial, Mark's group, to save even more on the interest. So we've been doing our due diligence and trying to save money on the interest that we're paying. I do not believe we actually saved any time. I went back and found where it was approved for a 28-year loan. And I think we actually issued at 24 years, and we've stayed at 24 years the whole time.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, because I thought we originally had saved some years,
I thought you had said that in the past, yeah.
but I went back and dug in further and found that the original issue was to end December of 2024. Unless I'm just completely reading it all wrong and I don't know what I'm talking about. But in the end, we have saved money by the refinancings that have been done.
Yeah, so if that's an indicator, if past practice is an indicator of future behavior,
Mhm.
would anticipate that future boards are gonna charge you with the same expectation that when opportunities are provided to either refinance,
Mhm.
either the terms or the percentage rate that we can save from going forward.
If we can save some money, we're gonna try to go for it. And there are terms, there are rules on when you can start to look at refinancing. And I believe that these bonds were initially issued in 2005 and 2006, and we had to wait 10 years and did it in 2016. I'm not sure how we were able to do another one, but I don't know. Mark's the expert on that one.
Yeah,
Is that
there's
the same
certain,
mark?
there's certain, it's called a call feature with the bonds, and to Dave's point, I think the original bonds in 0506 had that call, that were funded from a public offering, sold to the universe of buyers to a bank as a direct placement. With the direct placement, you have a little bit more flexibility on that call option.
Okay.
So a 10-ish year call is standard in the public markets, but with a direct placement with bank, I don't have the documents in front of me, but it was probably a couple year call. So we were able to do that sooner when rates plummeted back in 2020.
Okay, so that's why we were able to go in less than 10 years on the other refinancing with Mrs. Fox.
So the high school debt will be paid off in December of 2024.
Correct. We have, I am making the debt payment for this year tomorrow.
That's exciting.
Not really,
It's not?
because I get to see a large
Well,
amount of money
I
go
mean,
out of the
But
bank.
that was a big project and.
Yes,
The community should be proud of that.
Yes,
That's huge.
next year in December, we will be celebrating.
That's huge.
oh,
That's awesome.
And that's that millage of 2.35
Mhm.
Mhm.
will last be collected in 2024.
2024.
Say that one more time, Mr. Moran, I want to make sure everybody heard that.
The millage for the high school will be collected in 2024.
And And the bond goes on in March of 2024 for a new bill. When will that start to be collected?
We would sell the bonds later in spring, early fall of 2024, with elections beginning in 2025.
You want to say that one more time? When debt falls off,
When the debt falls off on December of 2024 for the old high school / new high school, then
okay.
yeah, then if the bond issue were to pass in March of 2024, we would sell those bonds later in the year of 2024 with new tax collections on the new construction beginning in 2025.
I think this is an important feature for taxpayers in our district to understand.
Agreed.
I think another piece with this is that we would not displace kids into trailers.
Mhm.
We have a plan that would utilize some space within our current buildings. We may have to adjust some things. But we would not be using trailers unless something terrible happens with one of our buildings, which is part of the reason why we're trying to get a new building, because we are concerned about the facilities.
That's good information for people to have as well.
Well, that money you don't get back. That's
Right.
an expense that you just pay. It used to be about $1 million. I'm sure it's probably more now.
Oh, more now.
Yeah.
Because
And while there will be a hardship of displacing and moving people around, that adjustment is for bigger or greater good, which would be in the bill. And this is a two-phase project, and today's conversation is about just getting the bond ready for the March 2024 election.
Yes.
I think the time is now. I don't think we have any more time. Especially after Dave's gone over the amount of money that he's had to move to project potential
Issues.
large repairs, which really isn't doing anything that other than just a Band-Aid.
Agreed. Any other discussion? We need to would anyone like to make an amendment to include the millage?
Well, I just want to make sure that Dan and Mark don't have anything else. that
Oh,
they
yeah.
might
Yeah.
wanna
Gentlemen,
advise
do you
us
have anything
on, or
else?
give further information that maybe we didn't, multiple questions that you think is important for us to consider.
From our perspective, my colleague Mike Burns, who some may remember,
Yeah.
in the past, we've had great conversations with Dan, Dave and Karen about the project. I think the key is getting that dollar amount that you talked about. And it sounds like you guys have a good handle of OCC on the project itself, and moving forward with that. And it sounds like they've informed you on the term and what that means from those perspective too. So I think there's been an onboarding, which is always good to see from our perspective, and it's makes conversations easier from our end. So nothing from me. Not a whole lot to add either. You know, I live here. Now, the information that's given out has been very good. So to your credit and to Mr. Marion's credit and Mr. Stevens, the work that was done over the summer and beyond, even ahead of that, but especially in the summers, starting to get around, and a lot of people know that the need is there. So just from a community member standpoint, I'm glad to see it carrying forward. As far as an advisory role, I don't think I have anything else to add. I think have more information.
So then I'll just say, from what we've discussed, we would need to amend the terms in the resolution to include a dollar amount of $87,008,933 for a term of 30 years at an interest rate of 5.25%.
I will make that motion.
And I'll second. And thanks for saying it, Dave.
I had just written it down too, Dave. I was ready.
Okay, so in the motion itself, it only references the dollar amount.
Gonna add the interest rate.
But within the resolution wording, it does include the interest rate and the term. So we will make sure to note those in a document. 008-933.
Hey, does that need to be signed by every board member tonight, so people should stay? Sometimes we have to sign them all,
Let me double check the
and
resolution.
people leave and
So
then they didn't sign. My computer died, so I can't do that.
it's currently just myself and
Okay.
the board president,
Sometimes it's all
so
five, okay.
Mrs. Drum gets to stay
Perfect.
behind as
Okay.
I try and work this up because we do need to submit this tonight.
My
Yeah.
laptop died, so I couldn't. We're good.
So I have a comment, I just want to make.
Yeah, so the motion, the amended motion is on the table. So is there any discussion on the amended motion?
So that was Maines and who?
Mains and
Uh,
Heatherly.
Heatherly,
Maines and Heatherly.
Rick and Joellen.
Yeah, it's. I think that. There has been a lot of, effort, especially Mr. Moran, well, even starting back with Mr. Stefanik, but Mr. Moran in this plan. And, I feel my concern was transparency all the way through, and I feel it's been there. I'd be very surprised if it hasn't, because I ask a lot of questions. And so my personal thought is it's time for the taxpayer to decide. Bring it forward, let the taxpayer make that choice. That's the way I feel.
Well, I think every taxpayer wants a new building. It's just, it's what you can afford. Can you afford it or can you
Well,
not afford it?
that's what I mean.
Yeah,
They will
right.
decide on the plan and the
Mhm.
amount, et cetera. It's put it to the, it's what the ballot is for,
Yeah, but I think it's time to move forward because we have aging facilities.
to let
and-
them decide,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I think this is, and Mrs. Zakor and I have talked, really what we're doing is hopefully a little bit different than what we've done in the past. We are really looking at a long-term plan
Mhm.
that takes care of all our needs versus just a small group of kids. But this is, or a K-5 building versus the 6, 8, 9, 12. We're looking at a long-term plan. We're trying to develop this long-term plan and vision to meet all the needs of the district for many years. Looking again at the uses of our facilities such as LT Ball to move our board offices out there to help support our kids and our staff. Just condensing, being more efficient to help the taxpayer, so we're not spending money on things unnecessarily. We think there's a lot of benefits, in my opinion, to this is thinking long-term, not just a short-term fix.
Anybody else? Okay.
I don't think there's a perfect plan.
Mm-mm.
I don't think a perfect plan can exist. I mean, we even talked about the Michael's site. But then when you start thinking about it in practicality, you basically are going to lose, I think, about 100% of your walkers. Because there's just not a lot of residential around there and I mean, so.
Sidewalks.
I mean, conceptually, it's progressive, it's out there, there's growth, I mean, I acknowledge all that. But then you say, okay, so now you have to run buses for 100% of the kids. Other than those driving themselves or their parents taking them. So what does that extrapolate into cost and wear and tear and fuel and liability? So, I mean, it's like, there's just no perfect solution, I don't think, and that's why I feel like it's time to let the taxpayers decide.
All right. We'll go ahead and call for a vote on the amended motion.
Maines,
Yes.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Drum,
Yes,
Dunaway,
No,
Zakor.
Yes.
the amended motion passes. Now we'll insert some numbers into the original one. me just a second.
Wait, you need my phone?
No, my computer died, but I got my phone. I was gonna borrow yours.
Oh,
I got it.
yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah,
no,
you
I'm
can
good.
have it.
I got it.
Okay,
Forgive me.
so now we'll vote on the original motion now for approval of a resolution of necessity of bond issue in the amount of $87,008,933 for a term of 30 years. And submit the question of such bond issue to the electors and requesting state consent and special needs designation in connection therewith. Did I do that right, Dave?
You did, and you know what? You did it better than me, so you're gonna have to give me 1 second.
I'm getting good at this.
7, 2, 0, 8, 9, 30. I am good to go.
Okay,
Maines,
Yes.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Drum,
yes,
Dunaway,
No,
Zakor.
Yes.
motion passes. Okay. Next, athletic game workers, approval to employ the following individuals for the athletic service for the 2013-2014 school year. Oh, sorry. What did I say? Sorry, let me read that again. Approval to employ the following individuals for athletic service for the 2023-2024 school year. Names are included below.
second,
Mrs. Heatherly, do you have any discussion? No. Mrs. Dunaway?
yeah, I moved this out of the consent because I had a question. Oh, gosh, I received an email maybe, I don't even know how, 4 months ago. And it was, I don't have a band, child, and I don't have a football child. So I know that the music boosters and the athletic boosters concessions versus, I don't understand all the intricacies of financially how that works. But if I understood the email correctly, the music boosters don't get paid for working the concessions. It's basically like voluntary. If you're a band parent, hey, three games, it's kind of like the same thing for baseball. We all work the concessions, the parents take turns. So the music boosters question is, it seemed very valid to me. Why is the district paying for our most largely employees to work the ticket booth at the games? And then that money goes to either the boosters or the football team. Who gets that money?
No, it goes to
Pardon?
athletics.
Yeah,
Oh,
like,
okay.
that goes to the athletic
Athletics.
department.
Okay, so I didn't understand how that works here. And maybe for some reason, they think the music boosters parents are thinking that somehow either the athletic boosters or the football team gets that money. I don't understand any
We
of this.
pay athletic workers,
Right, like our game workers?
that goes to the workers themselves. There's,
Okay.
that money goes to the workers for working, that's their pay.
Oh, okay, correct. Sorry, I've had a headache all night. I'm barely focusing.
There's no money
That,
for
now I
that.
know now I know what my question is. So the question, thank you. So the music boosters parents said, why don't we just have like football parents? Largely football parents, or just anybody who wants to volunteer their time.
They could.
And that would save the district a lot of money, because right now we're talking about our 5-year forecast. So because like with music boosters, boom, your kid plays trumpet, saxophone, whatever, you have to work 3 concession nights. So why can't we have football parents work the game workers gate, I don't know what you call that, gate
Ticket takers.
ticket takers, yeah. And that saves us a lot of money.
I thought this went back to OSHA ticket sales and.
That's for
That's for
tournaments.
tournaments.
That's for tournaments. This is just every Friday night games. Basketball, is it basketball too?
Regular season, yeah.
Yeah, basketball, football, whatever.
Are they doing ticket sales upon entry?
Yes.
Yeah, like at the football game, you get, you,
I
Yeah,
understand that, I'm just
right.
clarifying that, it's
Right.
not online, that people can buy them at the gate.
Both.
right.
Right.
So I thought this music parent had a good thought, right? If they have to volunteer in the concessions, because this-
Concession money is going back to
To the band
the
boosters.
volunteer group that's running those concessions. We're talking about handling district money for ticket sales for athletic events.
No,
Partially
it goes to the
has
athletics.
to go with,
Department.
Mrs. Dunaway, the difference is that the concessions.
Okay.
Is an optional item or two. We don't have to have concessions. They use
Okay.
it as a fundraiser.
Gotcha.
that's what I was trying
The
to say.
ticket takers and the game workers.
Yeah, we have to have, we can't just,
We have to have those
okay,
to handle the district funds.
gotcha. Okay.
Now, could we use volunteers
Mhm.
instead of
Mhm.
paying? Yes, we could.
Okay.
Yes, we could.
Okay. So anyway,
I don't think it's a bad idea to look
I-
into.
maybe the music boosters and the athletic boosters and the football parents, maybe they could all have a meeting, or I don't know, like I'm leaving and it seemed like a fair question to me. It made sense.
Well, we have volunteer officials for
Right.
volleyball games.
Right.
Things like that.
Like I said, I'm a baseball parent. We have to work so many games.
Yeah.
And we bring our own, we donate, we bring all the popcorn, the water. So all the money goes right back to the baseball team. We donate it all.
Fine idea.
So, okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and please, you probably know this, we're on the board with all this. There was a time when we used volunteers to sell tickets.
Not since I've been here for 8 years.
There was a time before you that we did use volunteers to sell tickets. And this district had a pretty big investigation related to athletics and.
That didn't have
finances.
anything to do with that. I was here when that investigation happened.
Okay.
I mean, you're rolling your eyes, but I
No, I'm
talked to
not
people who
rolling my eyes,
do
I'm
the
just
books
saying
there.
That
It was an
we're
employee.
managing.
Yeah.
Ticket sales that the district is sponsoring those athletic events. Compared to concessions, which are not, I mean, those are all.
But that's cash money. I mean, there's money, people, you can steal concessions money just as easily as you can steal the gate money. Stealing money is stealing money.
I
But,
understand what you're
so
saying.
I don't see the difference.
There needs to be oversight regardless.
Right, I don't see the
Volunteers
difference.
or-
Right.
Or.
Cash is cash.
Well,
Definitely something we could look into.
That's all.
what, aside from the gates, what else do the game workers do? What are their positions there?
So, gosh, we have announcers, time clock, running the time clock. We have a field supervisor, a site supervisor,
Mhm.
the ticket takers and the ticket sellers. That's youth football has the most out of all of them. And then usually for the other things like soccer, you have the announcer, the timekeeper and a ticket seller.
I have a question, just to clarify that. So I know for soccer, we don't pay any of the announcers though, correctly? Correct?
I'd have to look at you know what, in our last board meeting. I believe.
Because I know for soccer, we do not, for girls soccer.
What do
I
you mean you
believe
don't
at our
pay? You
October-
have an announcer, you don't?
Yeah,
have
my
a-
husband announces and he does not
And-
receive
and
a single
he's-
penny.
Okay, there you go. There's.
Listen, if he's hiding money, we're gonna have a different conversation, folks.
If we go back to the October 23rd
Oh.
board meeting, I believe that we did approve. Or maybe it was before
That's
that.
what you're saying.
Yeah, well, but the whole, so we adjusted the OHSAA,
Yes.
OHSAA tournament game worker rates.
Yeah, that was,
But
yeah.
all of the other rates for regular games was also included in that. And for some reason. But we can see all of the things that we could potentially be paying for per game, per high school or middle school.
Mhm.
Athletic support pay rates, it's under the treasurers. So which sport were you?
Soccer.
So
Girls
for-
soccer is not getting paid.
For soccer, we have ticket sellers and there is a scoreboard operator. And a public address, so that is $20 per game,
Nat and Chris need to have a conversation,
yes.
because Matt Kleckner's been doing it for the last 4 years.
And that could be one of those volunteer things.
Yes.
Yes, if somebody's
Yeah.
saying they're volunteering, then
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
I was
So,
just curious.
yeah, just say, hey, do you realize that you could?
No, we ain't taking any money. No, we're good.
Well, I think
He does
that's
it
a
for
great point. It shows that it can work with through
Yeah.
the
Oh,
with the
yeah,
volunteer system.
It definitely can work.
Yeah.
I feel like if we're in deficit spending,
Let's get out of it.
This-
Let's try.
everything counts.
It
You
adds
know,
up.
when you go to your kitchen table at home, you look at $5 here, $10 there, $50 here, and because you know it all adds up. And so I feel like the band, I've been involved, you know, I did that for cumulatively almost like 13 years, and I'm saying that community swim team, you did that long, those require parent time, and the band people do it. And it's a lot of work. It's very hectic running those concession stands. And it's even behind the scenes ordering, cleaning, public health standards. There's a lot of activity there. And hats off to them. And so when you look at the athletes out there, and band parents are like, well, I can't see my kid at halftime. I can't do this, a sacrifice you kind of make, you know, you can't maybe be there to see all of them. So if I hear that argument from a football person or a soccer or basketball or whatever, it's like, well, sorry, you know, it's how the cookie crumbles
Yeah,
sometimes.
I don't complain. They have a hard job.
Yeah.
I will just say as devil's advocate on all of this.
Well, can I finish?
Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. I
No,
thought you were
that's-
finished. I apologize, Ann.
No, I just want to say that I think it's really worthwhile. I don't know what the dollar amounts look like after you pay all these game workers for different events, but I think that it's certainly maybe something that could be explored in 2024 as a model.
Julie,
Sorry.
not to minimize that, it's not true, but it's really great conversation, but the motion is to approve these workers.
Yeah.
So I don't.
I pulled it from the consent agenda because I wanted to ask a question. And then it, so
And then
the
it's kind of
conversation,
Well, that
the
works.
conversation has spiraled, which that happens.
Yeah, we're fine. No, it's something we're gonna look into.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. That's all. Amber, you got a question?
Yeah,
And
so I
you got
was just gonna
interrupted.
say devil's advocate side of this though. Because sometimes it's hard to find
Oh, for sure.
people to fill the spots, right? Like
Mhm.
even in, you guys have had
The
children
junior
in
sign up.
sports
yeah.
activities, you're not getting
Yeah.
everybody to sign up. So that could have been why it
Well,
was
you could
even
supplement,
switched to this.
you could
to begin
supplement with the approved list.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying that could be why it was switched to
Yeah.
this to begin with. So there could, it's something to look at, but I'm just saying there's
Yeah.
both sides to
Right,
this. one.
gotcha.
So, okay, so let's go back to approving these following individuals. Motion is on the floor by Heatherly and seconded by Dunaway. And we'll go ahead and take a vote.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Dunaway,
No,
Drum,
Yes.
Maines,
Yes.
Zakor.
Yes.
Alright. Next is library trustee appointment. Sorry, my computer's slow. Motion to appoint Adam Blake to fill the trustee position on the Tip City Library Board of Trustees starting January 1st of 2024 through December 31st of 2031.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Maines,
I'll second.
second by Mrs. Heatherly. Okay, is there any discussion?
yeah, oh, sorry, I didn't make a motion or a second, so that would be Joellen
Joellen,
and
do you have
Rick.
anything? Rick?
No.
Okay,
Yeah, so I had a question. The previous board changed the way that we do this. It's kind of a partnership now where people can apply at the board office, they can apply at the library, you know, to give people two different options on where to basically leave their information. So I just wanted feedback. It's been about a year now. Do we know how that's working? Are people leaving applications at the board office or is it
Not
still?
aware of any come to the board
Okay.
office.
Okay, gotcha. And do we know how many applicants applied for this position?
There's Lisa.
I can ask Lisa, but I know, I put it, let's see.
I didn't read how many applicants.
the answer is
Uh,
4.
Oh, there were 4? Okay,
Yeah. They interviewed
Okay.
at least 4 people
Okay.
from there,
great.
and this, I think I. Maybe go back, I think
Yeah.
this started back in August.
Okay,
We started it to let the board know, because that's
yeah, right.
following the policy, and they interviewed earlier this month. Selected a person, and that's when it comes here for appointment.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I was just wondering we changed the process about, maybe 2 years ago now. I was just wondering how it was working, so that's all.
I haven't heard it, I didn't ask Miss Prawl or Miss Williams if they've got any
Right,
questions, but I haven't heard of,
okay,
hey, somebody
yeah.
take this to
Yeah.
the library or anything
Yeah.
like that. So
We also share in the advertising now, which is kind of nice because, you know, the district communications that go out, we reach a lot of parents. So that's, you're capturing a big audience. So hopefully that's a benefit and that's working well. I don't know. So, okay.
I think,
Sometimes we change things and we don't get feedback.
No.
Yeah, I mean, heck, I mean, you just started in August, so I'm not directing these, it's kind of
No, I
like a
understand.
generality thing. Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask, well, how was it advertised this time? For this person, I mean, for this position this year?
it was,
What
I
was
know
the
it was in
form?
the paper.
Was it in the newspaper and the Gazette?
Yeah.
That's good.
Or-
Do we do anything through those, like,
We
school
hadn't had to-
Facebook page or anything like that? Website? Yeah,
The website.
I think I saw, it. yeah. I
So,
don't always
if
check
I
the
can,
website.
so it was in the district new website, and it was also in the Tip Gazette, the newspaper. You
Yeah.
said, is that right?
I believe so. That is on your policy, but it goes out in multiple, there's at
Yeah.
least 7 sort of areas.
So,
There's signs inside the library, our library newsletter, our social media, your social media. Thing goes through to the office and things like that. So it's posted many locations. People bring in applications and just drop them off.
I think in the little newspaper would be nice too. That was one thing.
when you say
when-
little newspaper,
Well, the local newspaper,
the tip is that,
the Tip
Yes.
Gazette. Was it? Okay, that's great,
Yeah.
because when I started and this came up, that was not happening. And it was my understanding, it was just a notice at the library, and that was my biggest concern. That it wasn't, the opportunity was not being disseminated to the public at large. So I'm glad to see that's changed.
Lisa, can I ask you a question? Sure. So I know before we did the inductee ceremony, is that something that's coming?
That'll happen happens every January. people
Okay,
get inducted.
So in January, okay, I'm just gonna put that as a note for myself, so I remember.
Every year. Every year it has to happen.
That was fun last time. Okay. All
Well,
right,
it happens every year with the board having knowledge of it. Should have knowledge of it that it happened.
What's happened
Mhm.
every
Yeah.
year since I've been here.
I'm not disputing that, Mrs. Santucci. I'm just simply saying it needs to happen every year with the board, the full board having knowledge that it happened. It's happening. Since it's a board appointment.
I'll be glad to do it again.
I'll fight you for it.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so at this moment, at this time, we'll go ahead and vote if there's no other discussion. Okay.
Mays,
Yes.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Drum,
Yes.
Dunaway,
No,
Zakor.
Yes.
Okay. We're now to citizens' comments. Mr. Watson?
do you have the timer or?
Yeah, I'm gonna do it right now. Give me a second. Give me 1 second, Mr. Watson, so I can make sure I have it up. So sorry.
I have it, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Don Watson, West State Route 571, Tip City Way. I would proudly show you, I was able to attend the Ohio State Soccer Championship. It was very exciting. I was glad I was able to go. The only down part was only a friend got me there because you still have to have the QR to get in the game. They don't take cash for some reason. I thought Governor DeWine abolished that, but then he didn't let them know. So, with what discussion has come up, there's one that to me takes priority because of that soccer game. There's one administrator on the Tip City staff that guess the truth would be I dislike, because he disqualified a friend of mine who played baseball last April before he even had a chance to try out for the team. So I think this administrator needs to go. It was only by chance he got to be an administrator because Greta hired another AD. And he lasted one day. And then it was fall time, and so they had to scurry to find another AE. So why you keep this guy, I don't know.
Excuse me, Mr. Watson,
Our
you can't,
comments were not supposed to be.
They actually
cannot
changed
be
that.
Changed.
They actually
It's
changed that.
changed. The policy's not like that anymore. You
Yeah, they
can,
changed it.
it's, you,
Do
the court
state
ruled you may
policy.
personally direct.
No, I just went to a meeting where this,
Any
at OSBA, where you can stop personal attacks against people.
No, that's if it's threatening. If
I'm
they
not
feel there's a
threatening, I'm
threat,
just
I
saying.
understand.
Yes,
but
that
it's written
changed
in
earlier
there.
in the year.
Mr.
there's a
Watson, your
threatening.
subject comment is supposed to be on facilities. That's what you have right here, facilities written down, and so that's what your comment should be about, is facilities.
Okay,
Okay, thank you very much.
this is brought up staff and we want feedback.
I understand, sir, but what you put on this paper is what we're supposed to be hearing.
If you want me to add it.
Your time has already started, so it was supposed to be on facilities.
Well, if he sat here through a whole meeting
Yeah, I
and then
mean,
he had.
I understand.
his time should not reflect the part where the board was having a discussion. I mean, that doesn't seem fair.
I'll switch it to facilities.
Thank
because
you. I
have the
appreciate that.
same Complaint about 88 million. I never saw a map of Tip City in the area. This I got from the United States Department of Interior Geological Survey. If you've ever been in the middle school or Nevin Copy, you know you have to go up a ramp. The reason for that was there's a hard strain of limestone that goes through the site up front. And I was in school when both of those buildings were built. The reason the ramp's there because the strain of limestone has to be blasted. We saw no drillers from Garmin Miller when they presented $88 million to you to build on the same site those two schools are. I think that's a scam. When you don't tell the whole truth, you're telling a lie. That's the way I was taught. So another non-truth is we were told in a community meeting that planes would be flying over the Nevin Copy field. That's not true. They have built 9 warehouses right where the new field was proposed, so you have like a V. This is where the school land is. They do not fly over. The person who kept saying we don't need it on the Nevin Copy land was the previous president, who I volunteered to be on the facilities committee, and he wouldn't allow me for 3 years. I have the most experience in building in Tip City because of my age. The other thing was, and I have nothing against Tyler, but he put on Tyler and Heather Yonkers, who pay no taxes in Monroe Township. That is not fair at all. You want to raise money from people that live here, you need those people, not necessarily me, but you got other builders that could have been on that committee and made wiser decisions. So I don't come to you as negative, I come to you with facts. I back them up, things that haven't been done. If I can't talk about the AD, then it's time to change your policy, because that guy destroyed my friend's baseball career. And last week, you had to rectify his GPA And it come out not on the top headline of the Tip Gazette, but in the bottom corner. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Next is list of suggested future agenda items. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add?
Well, following up on what Mr. Watson said, ironically, do we want to add Latin honors and have a conversation about that? It's been a month. We were gonna do it last month, we were gonna do it at the next meeting, so it hasn't happened.
I personally think that that should be something on the charge of the new board, because we're already halfway through the school year. So that's something that's gonna have to be.
At the last meeting, this
Yes,
board
I will-
agreed to talk about it, all five of us
No,
said we would talk about it.
Yes, I will put that on the list for suggested
I'm
items
not sure
for,
they're talking about
Hopefully,
the same
okay.
things.
Okay.
I don't think Joanna and Teresa are talking about the same thing.
yeah, we did, agreed, we talked about Latin honors, yeah, we said we would talk about the next meeting, we didn't.
In the future, for future
We
calculations?
said we would talk about it at the next meeting, it's been 2 meetings, and we haven't discussed it.
No, it's about going back to adopting a traditional valedictorian
Yeah.
model compared to.
No, we're just talking about Latin honors, what just happened
She's
recently
talking
that
about those
Don was
5
alluding
kids,
to.
I think.
Yeah, the current situation with the 5
oh,
students.
I believe
See
it's
that?
already been taken care of though, right?
I don't think it has, so I wanted to have a conversation about it. At the last meeting, we said we would talk about the next meeting, so we're 2 meetings in now. We still
I
haven't
did not have
discussed
that
it.
on my list, so I apologize. I
Well,
will make sure that it
It
gets on the
wasn't under
next board
future
meeting.
agenda, yeah, it wasn't under, it was, we all agreed.
Okay, I will put it on
No
my
one
list.
cares about it, I think that's more than obvious. Don, yeah, to your point, Don, it's obvious no one cares about these 5 kids and what happened, that's very clear. So, who cares?
Or as a school board member.
well, I am both.
About how it's being resolved.
So I'm a board member, so clearly I'm a board member. I signed in as a parent and gave citizen comments. And the 5 people sitting here, after I sat down from my citizen comments, agreed to discuss it at the next meeting. So now we've had 2 meetings and it never got discussed. So clearly the board doesn't care. I think that's obvious.
I again apologize, Mrs. Dunaway. I forgot to put that on this meeting. That is my fault. I do take responsibility for that.
Could have been happened to the work session or here. Anyways,
Okay,
So
I will add that to our next agenda. I will look for some information on it so I can understand how it works and processes and get the information as to what has been rectified and all of that
there's a
information.
crosstalk here, I think.
There's 2 different topics.
Can I offer something, see if I'm on target or not? I think the one idea is that because these 5 kids were inadvertently overlooked at their graduation ceremony at Hobart. Now that it's come to light, how do we remedy it? And there's have been some remedies made
Mhm.
through different
Avenues.
And I think what we're talking about is with December being our last month and it's a break, a college, typically they're here. Should there be a process, should there be some type of little ceremony given
sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt.
some type of ceremonial process and just like, the awards with the kids tonight? Like, that's the way I took it. Like, what
Oh,
else,
okay.
what else do you do in person? Because when we're at Hobart, the board members were on stage, they handed out the diplomas, the superintendent was there. And so do you try to do something to that effect for the 5 students? And then I think the other and Mrs. Heatherly shaking is moving forward beyond this is,
Yeah, that's
Does
for the
it-
next board.
yeah,
to decide.
does it, for
for
the
the
next
next board.
board to discuss? Am I
Yeah.
right, Joellen? Is
That's
that
not
what
our
you're,
thing.
Okay,
yeah. So I think there's 2 different things going on here.
okay. I will
Yeah.
put both of them
2 different topics, sort of
to discuss.
related but separate.
Okay.
So is that what you're thinking, saying too, that there should be like more of a ceremonial
Well,
for the kids when they? if
this
they're
is not the
here?
place to discuss it, because this is just talking about
No.
topics for future things.
I
yeah,
understand, but
no.
putting it as a topic for a future thing, a ceremony.
I'm not trying to change the current system. That's up for the new school board to decide. If they want to do that, that's up to them. I was just, at the last meeting, the 5 of us agreed to discuss these 5 kids and what
Yeah.
happened at the next meeting. That would have been the work session. It didn't happen. The next meeting would have been tonight. It didn't happen. So I'm asking the board to do what they agreed to at the October board meeting. That's all I'm asking. It's already been agreed to.
It'll be on the December 5th agenda
Yeah,
work session.
okay.
I mean, my gosh, this happened in May. And we're still dilly-dallying about it.
Okay, any other items to be added?
I would think that we would be discussing law firms because those usually get approved at the organizational meeting.
That is on the list, yes, already.
I'd like to recommend that we discuss, well, I'm not sure it's a discussion topic. I guess I'll just ask the question out loud whether it needs to become a topic to discuss. We have 3 new, board members coming in, one of them is here in the audience with us tonight. And, will there be any, inclusion of those elected board members in the December 5th or the December 16th? 19th?
They're not sworn in until the organizational
Yes.
meeting, so that would be legally irresponsible.
I didn't say they would be voting on anything. I just asked if there would be any sort of invitation to have them join discussion. Just asking.
Well, we would have to take a board vote on that at the next meeting. It's never been done before, not saying it couldn't, but we would have to vote on that as a board. And so that should have been on an item tonight to vote on under new business.
I could just say that, you know, prior to my being sworn in January, I didn't participate. And I think that, you know, the board elect members can attend these meetings right now. We have Mrs. Dillard here
She's been here, what, 2 or 3 times?
2 or 3 times.
no one
So,
else even came
so
at the
I
same
don't,
time.
you know, I guess kind of wondering about if they're welcome to come to the meetings.
Yes,
They never
yes.
have, except for Cindy, who came twice, maybe 3.
So, yeah, I think it's great. I mean, that's.
Yeah. Any other topics? Thought you had something new. All right. Okay, at this time, I would love an approval, I mean, a motion to adjourn.
Are you gonna read the upcoming meetings?
Oh, yeah, sorry, my bad. I forgot that. Upcoming meetings, the next work session will take place on Tuesday, December 5th. At the Board of wait, are we still doing a Board of Education or here? Board of Education beginning at 5. And then our next regular board meeting will take place on Monday, December 18th. At the Board of Education beginning at 6. Okay. I'm just gonna, all in favor of adjourning?
So moved.
Okay, fantastic.
Dave, is there a bathroom back on this side or do I have to walk all the way up front?
I think you may have to walk in the front.
Right front.
I found the boys restroom that way, but I don't know about. the
Okay.
ladies.
Yeah, so ladies, it's on the other side of that.
Gotcha,
wall.
thank you.